Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Data East Arcade Roundtable. With me, as always, is Mike.
Yes, unmute. Yes, hi.
Yes, there you are.
Out the gate already a clown. I guess that's fitting my little sprite guy there, but
Yeah, that's true. And also back with us tonight is James of Scroll Boss. James, still there?
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Got you
Yes,
now.
we can now. Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, excellent. And also joining us tonight for the first time is Rei.
Hello.
Well, glad to have you with us, Rei.
Glad to be here.
And let's see, who do we got watching so far? Sharon's here, and Jay is here. How's it going, guys? We all sound okay? Everything sounds good on you guys' end?
Yep, I can hear everything clearly.
Excellent. All right. I think we're going to go ahead and get this show on the road then, because we got a lot to cover. We do have a lot to cover. I expect this stream to run long. So
we could probably just talk about 5 of these games. We could probably just fill out 2 hours on that alone.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, let's just go ahead and start with the really early years of Data East. There's 2 games in particular that we wanted to talk about here. One would be Bump and Jump. Interestingly, I actually ran into the arcade cab not too long ago. It was late last year at Free Play Florida. I don't think I've ever seen that, ever. So,
What kind of control scheme does it use?
Looking back on it, I might have a picture somewhere. Let me see. Because I actually don't recall at the moment. But I know I took pictures of plenty of the cabs when I was there. So let me see. Just going to go take a look. But go ahead and talk about Bump and Jump amongst yourself while I'm doing that.
Sure. I did get a chance to play this one. I was kind of surprised it was made in 1982. Considering when it came out, I would say the graphics and sound are pretty advanced for that year. It's got a fairly unique gimmick for the time, and I mean it has the difficulty kind of representative of that era, but I really did enjoy playing it and enjoyed the music particularly. It kind of stood out to me as pretty good for that time.
It did have a catchy tune, I remember that. Let's see.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, this is a game where you can bump and you can jump. This is my book report on. No, okay. No, seriously.
500 words.
I will fully admit I am much more familiar with the NES port, less so the arcade version. But since we're trying to downplay talking console games here tonight, I will say I didn't think there was too terribly much difference between the 2 games, except that the level arrangements in the NES one are different, but it's the same basic premise either or, and there is just something very cathartic about constantly squishing cars like you're some sort of more violent speed racer or whatever. Also, but your jumps are huge. It takes you 2 whole seconds to get back to the ground, and having to work around your physics vis-a-vis the road and whatever obstacles are down there is half the fun, as it were. But, yeah, it is a fun-ass, I guess you could say it's sort of a vehicle combat game, kind of, sort of, although, has much less in common with, Twisted Metal and more, I suppose, with Spy Hunter. But I was never great with Spy Hunter. This one, while not much better, I think I gelled with more.
You know, I played
I'd say
Spy
it's
Hunter
more
when I was there
playable.
too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
How about you, James? Any thoughts on Bump and Jump?
This is one of those games where I I really wish I had a chance to go back and play it again because I just only have very vague memories of it. But I have to agree that this is one of those games it was a game that I was aware existed. I was aware it existed when it was new, but I never saw it in any arcades when I was a kid. And it's kind of weird
Yeah, it's
because it was a pretty big game back then.
yeah, it was kind of the same thing for me actually. Uh, I knew it existed because there was an Atari 2600 version of it, which we had. Uh, and you know, just looking at the label, you know, copyright, whoever put it out, Data East, obviously, but might not have been them in the U.S. Oh, Bally Midway put it out in the U.S. I'm looking at the
Nice.
picture of the cab now. And Ray, you want to know about the control scheme?
I do.
All right, it's got two jump buttons, one for lefties, one for righties. A joystick right in the center,
Yeah.
and let's see, push down, you go slow. Push up, you go fast. It literally says that on here. And then, of course, left and right, plus a one-player or two-player button. Pretty
That sounds about
uncomplicated.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always ask for arcade games of that era because you never know.
Yeah, there's so many with some really interesting control schemes.
I think that's actually pretty neat how it accommodates for lefties. That's a lot more progressive than other games of the time, and even beyond that time.
Yeah, it's like looking at the Spy Hunter cab, since you brought that up. It's got the steering wheel with the buttons on, you know, both parts of it, but the gear shift is only on the right.
Bogus. So our takeaway is that Bump and Jump is superior to Spy Hunter. Is kind of what I'm taking.
Now, if Bump and Jump just had
Oh.
some machine guns,
Poor Spy Hunter. Now, Super Spy Hunter, that game's fabulous. I digress.
yeah, it's not the Sunsoft stream.
But yes, and hey there, Chibi. What is up?
Hey, how are you, Chibi?
Hey, Chibi.
But yeah, just another word. I like Bump and Jump is one of those games that I think about every now and again, and it just pops in my mind. Wait, fuck, Data East made this? I completely forgot that. Like, I'm not sure I had much of a grasp of Data East's identity playing this game on the NES when I was growing up. I knew of a couple of games they made, but I didn't really get into the breadths and depths of their catalog just then. But, you know, as far as your first ever Data East game you could possibly play, I think this is a good one.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun one. So, I know since I only just played the arcade version, you know, actually the cabinet last year, I've always used it with either a joystick or a control pad at home, you know, from playing the 2600 one, the NES one, and then the arcade one on MAME. So, but yeah, it was definitely nice.
I gotta say, pretty fast moving and smooth for a game from 1982. Like, I don't think most games from the Golden Age looked as neat as this one is. I think it could have passed for an early Silver Age almost.
Yeah,
Was there something in the water in 1982? Because I feel the same way about. Didn't Elevator Action come out in 1982?
I thought that one was 83, but let me check.
Because I keep thinking, I just remember Elevator Action feels like it's a game that should have come out later than it actually did.
You know, that is a fair point, although it was 1983, at least in Japan.
Okay.
Yeah. But nonetheless, you know, it is still pretty early, and it does feel fairly progressive for its time, so that's fair.
It was enough that they were going to port it to the 2600.
Oh, were?
Yeah, they found a prototype.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
But the crash put an end to that.
Yeah. That'll happen.
All right. So anyway, yeah, Bump and Jump, good stuff. So just to kind of wait, Chibi said, if you ever do a Game Boy Roundtable Diary, Deities made some fantastic games on Game Boy. Yeah, I know we were discussing one before we started the stream, at least in the chat we have going. So there's a good chance that we may end up talking about that in the next roundtable we do, but I'll get to more of that later. But speaking of which, check out the background. The work of Bette.
And that's a great one.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I like deco game. That's perfect.
Yep.
I mean, you can't beat that. That is the absolute perfect choice for a background.
And it was her idea to have Mike and Ray do a balancing act.
That is too freaking cute.
And she wanted to position Stryker so it looked like he was sitting up there on the ledge.
Well, it's nice to be able to get some rest somewhere,
Exactly. Me, I'm just running along with my machine gun.
Well, he is bad at sitting, if we're talking about the guy on the top there.
Yeah, he's just kind of relaxing in a weird way. Not jump kicking any ninjas or anything.
Yeah, getting stuff like this to look as cool as it does here is deceptively cool. So it's always good to give props to Bette whenever we talk about these things, because I mean she always does a great job on these.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. I continue to appreciate the visual flair that augments our roundtables.
Unfortunately, she can't hear us right now because she's busy. So
that's cool. No worries.
I'll let her know.
Hopefully she hears it on a replay or something.
If not, I'll go ahead and just replay it for her. Anyway, well, let's move on. And I actually have a picture in the next one we're going to talk about, but I may have to cycle through it a little bit, so bear with me. Okay. Put a whole bunch of pictures in here of a whole bunch of different games, and they're all basically in alphabetical order. There we are.
Good pre-planning.
Yeah. At least we got some pictures this time.
Uh-oh.
Deco, if you know, you know. But yes, we are talking about our favorite stepping on giant burgers and salting or peppering fried eggs and malicious hot dogs, and this is one of the weirder games they did, but it is extremely fun. Everyone knows Burger Time.
And the weirdness is an omen of things to come with this company.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
In the best way.
Yes.
Oh, yes, most definitely. Burger Time is a very scary game. I don't know, the constant pressure of being assaulted by food on all goddamn angles. Is just, I don't know, man. This one really gets my nerves on edge.
Existential nightmare.
Yeah.
We're closed now.
Yeah.
If you remember the ad.
Soviet Russia fooled you.
God damn it.
Yes. It's a nightmare dreamscape of every line chef's worst nightmare. But, all right, what do you find particularly unnerving about Burger Time, Mike?
It feels like, even more so than Pac-Man, it just feels like all the enemies bearing down on you from all angles just makes this a constantly pressuring game. But if I'm not mistaken, you can get chased by more than 4 enemies at the same time, and I think the different perspective being that you're not rolling overhead, but you're on more of a 2D plane, I think makes it, I don't know, something about this game, skill issue or whatever, I think it's harder to avoid the enemies, and just, the way they just keep flopping around as they're running towards you with malicious intent in their eyes. I don't know, like, it does feel like a bad fever dream, but it's, it is a very, very lively game. Not a second wasted with its classical design. But
I had a thought, actually.
What's up?
Maybe whoever came up with this at Data East got food poisoning. It had some kind of weird dream. Hey, Brandon. How's it going?
Hi, Brandon.
Hey, Brandon.
It feels like a sort of bad dream that like someone would have in a Tim Burton movie, like that bit with the clowns and Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but it's like giant food instead of clowns. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Well, I mean, does psilocybin count as food poisoning? Let's be clear.
Yeah, I don't see why not. Oh.
There's some mic problems somewhere?
Oh wait, am I still supposed to be talking?
Well, if you're done, then we'll go ahead and move on to whoever would like to talk about Burger Time next. James, right?
Yeah,
Well,
I'll talk.
go for it.
If you have something extra to say about it, go into it.
I'm very bad at managing my pepper. That's like very integral to not dying in this game. But you know, as the forces increase and you only have like, I don't know, so many, like you can carry like 3, 4 out the gate. It can only bail you out so many times before the trappings in the corner begin. Like, it's a really freaking fun game, don't get me wrong, but I've never been very good at it. I'm not sure if I've even gotten to like the 3rd full level. I must have at least beaten the first one at some point, but beyond that, my memory is cloudy. I think that's all I got for now.
I can still hear that little jingle when a new pepper appears.
There's a nice little jingle, yes.
Mm-hmm. All right, so James, by all means.
Oh, this is one I remember seeing out in the wild quite a bit back when it was new and back when I was new.
Nice.
Now that I think about it, but yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely agree with the fact that it really does put the pressure on you. You can kind of feel that panic because everything. There's no thing about in Pac-Man when you're first starting off, the ghosts just kind of wander around a bit. Not all of them immediately go right after you.
Mm-hmm.
In this game, they're doing that, and like you said, trying to manage the pepper.
Yeah.
Just to defend yourself. I mean, that starts messing with you. But just the idea of the combos you can rack up, if you can lead them on the right path, if you can just get over the panic. I mean, the reward in that is just amazing. It's kind of like, sorry for bringing this up again, but it's almost like an elevator action. If you can just mash a bunch of enemies at once with one elevator, you get that same feeling in Burger Time if you're able to do that. Just have a bunch of stuff collapse and catch a bunch of those wayward food products in one shot like that. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of smashing enemies with the rocks and Dig Dug, which I was not great with, but here it's more of a, I think, integrated mechanic, and yeah, it does feel satisfying to, add these deathly food products to your giant burgers, which... Who are you making these for anyway? Like the giant on the beanstalk or something? Or is Peter Pepper just really small? I don't want to think about the logic too much.
You may not want to know the answer to that. That might be some mind horror that we weren't ready for then and we aren't ready for now.
Exactly.
I think you're right, sir. Forget I asked.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and there's one trivia thing I want to bring up because I have to bring this up. I bring this up on Twitter all the time, and I'm going to bring it up here. In Japan, the game's name is Hamburger. On Peter Pepper's hat, there's an H. Even though in the American art, they usually put a P on there for Peter Pepper. But the thing is, in his later game, Ice Cream Factory, all the art, there's an I on his hat. So it's not that the letter on his hat's supposed to be his name. It's whatever he's working on.
Interesting. I remember seeing the H on his hat and just wondering, okay, that's kind of random. His name is Peter Pepper.
Yeah, and I thought it was like that just because when you have sprites and they flip horizontally, you have to worry about that.
Yeah.
It's like in Street Fighter, DJ's pants have maximum because if you turn around, all the letters flip exactly the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought it was that at first, but then when I saw the poster for Ice Cream Factory, that's when it finally hit me.
Huh. Hey, learn
So
something new
we're
every day.
sure. So we're sure it's not just because his name is actually like Heater Hepper and he's like a Swiss expatriate or something, is it?
Well, that's not some lore that we've got on the table just yet, so we'll have to keep the jury up some nights for that.
Yeah.
How about you, Ray?
Burger Time, I've honestly just kind of been a bit lukewarm on it over the years. It's a good game. It's just my personal taste, but when it comes to single screen arcade style games like this that have that kind of pressure kind of gameplay from enemies where you need to juke them and kind of bundle them together and stuff, I'd say something like Door is a bit of a better play for me. But it is a good game. I've mostly played the NES port though.
Yeah, I had a problem with that one. It just seems like you just can't turn well enough on that. So you get up the top of the ladder and you try and go left or right. It takes an extra second where it doesn't in the arcade.
This is one where I also mostly grew up playing the NES port, so maybe that's why I was never very good at it.
See, I mainly grew up playing the 2600 port, which is ugly as sin. Even for the 2600
now, isn't it?
But even for the 2600 is bad.
Yeah, it's ugly, but it worked.
It did.
I gotta look this up now that you mentioned it.
Yeah, that's the main one I played too.
Yeah. So hey, you remember what the food foes looked like in that one? They were basically just nondescript lines and squares.
Yeah, they were about as accurate as the gingerbread man at the top of the stairs in Donkey Kong.
Exactly.
Oh wow, everything is yellow. The bun's yellow. The lettuce yellow. I don't want to eat yellow lettuce. That sounds like it's diseased.
Oh yeah, everything is yellow in that game.
Wow, you weren't kidding. This is oh man.
Jaundiced.
Yep. More like jaundice time, exactly.
Yeah. By the way, offhand, I never actually played Peter Pepper's Ice Cream Factory all that much, if at all. Do we have any words on that offhand? I take it was not as well received a sequel for some reason.
Played it once, I think, and it just wasn't the same.
It's I remember just trying it out just because it was a Peter Pepper game, and I just remember saying, I won't be playing much more of this. It's a nice try to do something different. But.
Yeah.
The total carnage to Burger Time Smash TV, so to speak.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And
I hope I don't get shot for that comparison. I know Total Carnage has at least one fan out there.
I've barely ever played Total Carnage. I couldn't tell you who it is. And Sharon, just so you know, Peter Pepper's Ice Cream Factory is by Data East, the company we're talking about now. Continue.
I'm not sure what else to say. I'm seeing it here. It looks colorful enough, but Peter Pepper can jump now? That seems like heresy, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, he was just trying to keep up with the times, I think.
Yeah, I guess jumping was a big thing even before his first game. So I guess he had to contend with it somehow. So
yeah. Like Axel getting an actual jumping sidekick in Streets of Rage 2 instead of whatever he was trying to do in part 1.
That goofy knee of his, yes.
Yeah, that was just like, oh, okay. But anyway, so, well, we've got a choice now, guys. We could go ahead and follow the list as it stands, or we could just kind of jump around. It's like, say, from the... Say I want to talk about one of their own personal picks, or maybe one of the lesser known or more mainstream games.
So let's talk Psycho Nick's Oscar. Who got
Psycho
a chance
Nick.
to play that one?
Sounds good to me. And in fact, let me go ahead and flip back over here and locate the screens I have for it.
Sure.
Oh, hey, Snarb.
Hey, Snarb's
here.
What up?
And we'll get to this one
Rob,
later.
you gotta label your pictures, buddy.
You know, they were just in alphabetical order. So, all right.
We're just giving everyone an advanced tour of what we intend to cover. Let's just go with that.
Yeah, but not every game is in there.
I sure hope not.
Nope.
There we go. So Psycho Nick's Oscar. I mean, immediately when you look at this one, you can tell there's something a little bit different about it. It's got what is essentially a Gradius-style power-up system. This one came out in 1986, a year after Gradius, so obviously they copied it, right? Yeah. But
big influence.
This was a really interesting game. Not so much because of the moment-to-moment gameplay for me, but because of just kind of the visual style of it. I think somebody had mentioned that there was some kind of, they probably had like anime background artists working on this one. But it has a really nice, what do the young kids say now, aesthetic to it. I did like the gameplay system of using that's a unique part of this, is using a Gradius style bar power system in this game. And one thing that kind of surprised me about it, if you see where it says PCU on the screen, there's actually 3 choices that pop up above that one. So there's actually kind of 3 additional bars in addition to the visible ones there. This game apparently inspired what is the guy's name? Manfred Trenz, I think is his name, to create Turrican.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I'd rather play this one, but that's just me.
Yeah, same here.
But very interesting game. When you get to the gameplay itself, it starts to get, well, 1986 deco. Let's put it that way. It's like Karnov, like other games from the company at that time. That the enemy placement and design is chaotic and not very well thought out. It's just going to dump the enemies and the bullets on the screen, and the onus is on you to figure out the strategies to make it work. I did clear the game. I had to credit feed it. It's a very difficult game, even on the easiest dip settings. But this falls like pretty plainly into the what an interesting mixed bag of a game, in my opinion. But what are other folks' thoughts on this?
Well, before I say anything about it, what the hell is up with that title? Like, are you Oscar? Are you Psycho? What's Nyx mean? Is that like the name of the suit? Is this some sort of Guyver like parody or whatever? I don't like.
Did the Guyver exist in 1986?
Yes.
I wasn't aware of that.
Good.
Out of Control came out in 1986. Actually, the first movie.
No kidding. For some reason, I thought that was 88.
That was the OVA.
Ah, okay.
Okay, it looks like your name is actually Oscar. Oh, I'll be damned.
And presumably, you're Psycho. But
yep.
Nyx?
As in, y'all think of the New York Knicks? Sorry, I'm not going to go there. Well, I will have to confess I haven't played this one as much as I probably should have, due in part to Ray mentioning that this game is very ball-kickingly tough. I never got very far into it. I think I've at least beaten the first level at some point. Hey, Ray, you've beaten it. This isn't one of those bullshit games that cuts off your continuing in the final level, does it? Because I'm like putting out like a riot list of games that actually fucking do that now.
No, you can credit feed it.
Yeah, E-SWAT, so Roston, Scramble Spirits, if anyone knows that one. Sega seemed kind of like an egregious offender. Anyway, that's immaterial, but... Okay, so Oscar does not do that then.
No, you can credit feed it. I certainly did, because I didn't have time to kind of try and sub 5cc it, so to speak.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But that being said, this is one that I could certainly stand to play more. It certainly does look neat. Your Proto-Turk and mech does feel pretty powerful. Like, it feels kind of tanky, which I appreciate that. Instead of being like super athletic hero suit or whatever, you're just like a big, bulky, trotting death machine. Although you can jump pretty high at least, but yeah, no, I can see how this one inspired Turk, and being that I am actually quite a Turk fan, I should really go back and play this one someday. But 'tis neat. I just need to bone up on it more someday. So
you need to do some serious boning.
Yeah. My only real gripe about the way they set up that Gradius power bar is that the gun is on the end of that. It really should not be, because you need to power up the gun like as quickly as possible to have any chance of surviving.
Yeah, you should try and get options as soon as you should in Gradius. That's the same principle, more or less.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. I think no one who worked on it was particularly influential or went on to do anything particularly interesting in the industry. Just an odd little game that it's an arcade game, and it didn't have the exposure, so I don't think most people know about it. But it's worth kind of taking some time to play it, because it's really very representative of the Data East kitchen sink style of development.
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, it is actually pretty good. By the way, I don't mind the stuff that's just kind of showing up on the screen there. I'm just monkeying around with some stuff over here.
Could you explain the jump again? Because when we were talking about that on Discord before, and you were talking about the origin of a specific jump name that shows up later.
Right. So I got this from the Game Developer Research Institute. That's where I got most of the information. It's a really great website, but basically from some interviews and some other information, there's a specific kind of thing you can do with the jump in this, where if you tap down, you can cancel the jump and go back down again. And apparently there is a small arcade subculture that calls that technique the Oscar jump.
Interesting. I remember you mentioning that. And I actually did play the game yesterday myself, and gave it a try. And yeah, it worked all right.
It worked you over, I bet.
Well, I wouldn't say that much, Mike.
Oh. Okay, well, good on you then for doing okay with it.
Yes, I can't think of a way to end this, so...
I'm sorry, I just made things awkward. James, do you have anything to say about Oscar?
No, except for I definitely want to agree with what was said about the way the backgrounds look. There's some amazing... there's just amazing pixel work in this all around, but those backgrounds, you could just tell there's a lot of extra effort put into that, because, a lot of that stuff, it's not necessary, but it just looks insanely nice.
It really does.
Yeah.
I call that going for extra credit when you've already gotten an A. There's probably a more concise way to convey that, but yeah.
And that fits.
You can go too far with that too. If you played JJ Squawkers, you know what I mean.
Oh God!
Why are we talking about JJ Squawkers?
Yeah, I know. It's just that's a surrealist art nightmare, and I'll never recover.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it. Oh boy. Well, anyone else have any thoughts on Psycho Nick's Oscar?
I think I'm good.
Don't fuck the Knicks in this case. I'm sorry. Jesus.
Yes. Sports ball, very good.
Mike.
That's not even sports ball. That's a fighting game reference, kinda.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm already getting quacked this early in the stream.
That was all Rob. That was not me.
A few of those are actually me. So.
Oh, okay. Rob didn't add reverb fart like I wanted, so.
Not unless I get that other thing there that they want to charge money for. So, anyway, let's talk about something else then. I got it.
Yo.
Mike, what's your favorite movie?
Da 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 da. His name is Robert. He is a cop. His name is
Wrong.
RoboCop. And
Okay.
okay, his name is Alex, but still.
Please, somebody get me the Robert Cop. I need it for my shelf.
That thing's hilarious. Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Figures.
I've seen one in person. It's just as crappy as in the picture.
Wow. So it's actually JPEG quality in real life.
Wow.
I wish I had a better way to put it than that, but that's pretty great. Yeah.
Fun fact, long before I ever saw the movie...
JPEG.
Fun fact, long before I ever saw the movie, I actually had one I'm pretty sure was a legitimate bootleg RoboCop figure. He was actually like a foot tall, and he had these buttons on his back that made all sorts of random-ass sound effects when you pressed them. I have no idea what happened to that. It probably just got sold off at some point, but
now,
I'm not even sure if it was the right color, but it did resemble RoboCop, whatever it was.
Now, was that one of those things where you press a
Unfettered
button?
marketing of the 80s towards children.
It was.
RoboCop of all movies.
Yeah,
All movies.
How toyetic!
They did the
That
same
seemed like
thing
exactly
with...
the sort of thing that the fucking movie was warning against.
and they did the same thing with Aliens and Terminator, too, so... Oh, boy. Yes.
Oh, I know it. And Rambo.
Yeah.
Rambo had a fucking Saturday morning cartoon adaptation.
Yes.
So did RoboCop.
Yes,
Yes, it did.
exactly.
Even the original Alien had that one figure, and they were going to put out an entire line for that.
Wow.
They put out a line of Dune toys for crying out loud.
Thank
The
you,
80s
Ronald
were-
Reagan.
Yeah, that's the 80s in a nutshell for his. Anyway, though.
But yes, RoboCop, the game.
Oh, yeah, he actually got the... Yeah, he got the Kyle MacLachlan figurine. Anyway,
No,
but
that's the new one. I'm talking
RoboCop
about the old one.
game- Oh, gotcha.
Mhm.
Nice. But yeah, the RoboCop video game is actually, I think, reasonably accurate to the film. I mean, to the extent that the action is, obviously, you can't really replicate the massively biting satire of the movie into video game form, but for what this one is worth, it is a pretty damn fun action game. You are able to fire your pistol, your iconic Auto 9, as fast as you can press it, and all sorts of punks are bearing down on you, including incredibly agile guys with a chainsaw, which I'm pretty sure was not in the movie, but here we are.
Yeah.
You do fight several Ed 209s, like you fight one early on, then you fight even stronger ones towards the end of the game. You can get the Cobra Assault Cannon. It's rarer than the other weapons you can get, but it is incredibly powerful and cool. And RoboCop is also able to jump, which is also kind of a violation of the movie, but, you know, it's not the hugest jump anyway, so I can accept it for what it is. I don't want to steal away the talk from everyone else, but Rob is correct. RoboCop is my favorite movie, and this is actually, I'd say, for what it is, quite a damn good game adaptation, if not an extremely difficult one. That being said, I did see a streamer recently 1cc it live, which I didn't even think was fucking possible, but no, they actually goddamn did it.
Yeah, that game does get quarter muchy.
Yes. I mean, it doesn't help that while you are able to take several hits, you don't really have a concept of lives in this game. Your life meter are essentially your lives, and if you take too much, then you lose as soon as that health bar runs out. So that is a pretty rough deal. But even if I'm not very good at it, I think the aesthetics are really on point, and it's just a fun action game where I get to shoot a lot of punks. That's and the occasional bipedal robots. So Yeah, no. If not just for that, I think it is a real damn cool game, and definitely one of the best RoboCop games that was made. There were many others of lesser quality, quite a few of them by Ocean Software.
Ew.
But I would definitely take a Data East take on this rather than those jerks at Ocean. So yeah.
Well, keep in mind too that they did publish that RoboCop for NES.
Anyone else can go now.
Ray, what do you think about RoboCop?
Well, this one, I had the PCB of this one when you could still buy arcade PCBs for a reasonable price. I think I paid $60 for it or something. But
jealous now?
I like that game. I like that game a lot. Well, there's an FPGA core now at this point. I'm not too worried about it, but
nice.
It's I think one of the more restrained Data East productions, probably because of the IP.
Yeah,
there's probably a little bit more oversight. Gameplay is fairly tight, I'd say, compared to other. I mean, was it 87 that this came out?
Yeah, it would have had to at least have been 87, if not 88, because 87 is when the movie came out too.
Yeah,
I think it came out fairly close to the movie, if I recall correctly. But I mean, it's.
Oh, it was actually 1988, but yeah, still close enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The gameplay is solid. It does have just a pinch of that kind of loosey-goosey Data East jank in it. Like,
oh yes,
enemies will flood onto the screen, especially in the later levels. The thing that I really was not very good at this game when I first got it, and the only thing that helped me get better at it was taking the time to actually get good at those bonus rounds, because those affect your health. If you don't do well in those bonus rounds, just start over.
Yeah, that was something else that the streamer I watched emphasized when they were doing the 1cc. So,
yeah, it's crucial. If you can do the bonus rounds good, then you've got a chance. As you mentioned, the Cobra assault cannon is in the game. It's a limited pickup, limited ammo. It just shoots kind of a big energy ball, weirdly enough. Pretty powerful. The later stages are really nasty in that game. I have to say that, though.
Yeah, once like the laser, once the laser traps start bearing down, that's when it just, not nice.
But yeah, it's got the voice samples from, I think it's got Peter Weller's voice samples in it. It's got the Ed 209 voice samples when he comes onto the screen. Yeah. In the intro, he actually does the rules that he has to abide by, the directives, the prime directives.
Serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law.
Uphold the law.
Directive 4.
It doesn't list the number 4. Yeah.
Yep. Directive 4 classified.
They added an Ed 209 into the last boardroom scene at the end of the game, I believe. At the end.
Yeah, the last Ed 209 he faced was just at the foot of OCP, so that there's actually one in the boardroom right now is quite a difference from the film where, of course, I mean, Ed 209 did debut in a boardroom, but it's not to completely, mulch an executive. It's actually the final fight, so...
Yeah, sadly, that the mulching of the executive, the splattering, did not make it into the pixel art renditions.
Yeah, for better or worse, this game is, as far as I recall, more or less completely bloodless, which I guess they couldn't really convey that as per the film, but
they could have. They could have.
It is possible.
They absolutely could have.
Oh yeah.
You know what? Considering, another game we're going to talk about later, Data can get pretty gory, so that it is kind of ironic, but, it's still a fun game for what it is.
Look, I played Tecmo Knight. I know they could have.
Yeah.
That's neither here nor there, though.
Tecmo Knight is incredibly gory, but that's not Data East, so...
Yeah.
I know it. Now, I have to get a small personal rant out of the way.
All right.
I have a pet peeve about people that really love ZX Spectrum. and try to tell me that the CX Spectrum version of RoboCop is better than the arcade version.
They try to do what now?
I need you to stop doing this.
No.
Don't do that. Don't say that. That's going to make me angry.
They need
I
you
just
to.
was putting that out there. We can continue now.
My brain is trying to grasp that right now because it's not making sense to
what
me.
I said. I'm not making it up.
The ZX Spectrum port of RoboCop, the arcade game, is better than the arcade?
Yeah,
In what universe?
There are a few people I have apparently heard of, although I'm not sure if I've actually met them, that are very fond of the British computers that they grew up upon and champion them over, like, even, the NES or the Mega Drive or what have you. And, like, I guess that's mostly nostalgia talking, but, good for you and whatnot if you're all into those. But, like, let's try not to smudge the facts here if we can help it.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So, James.
I will give Ocean a bit of... I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. We can talk about Ocean in a minute. James, your thoughts on RoboCop?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those games where you just saw it pop up everywhere, and they did the job of, as you said, if you know them, even if you only saw the commercials or the trailers on TV or in the theater for the movie and didn't even see the movie itself, you saw all you needed to know in the attract mode of the game. And once you start playing it, that first stage, that puts you right in the RoboCop mood. They did a really great job of setting the mood with it, including when you punch the motorcycle, even that part shows up. It shows that really early, really in those days, they knew how to adapt something. And that shows up in a few later things, like one of my old favorites, Captain America and the Avengers.
Oh my god, that's not on this list? Shit.
No.
Yeah, I figured it wasn't on there because we talked about it in the superhero roundtable.
Oh yeah, shit, that was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that is
we
true.
did,
Yes.
so it's not out of the question for next time, though. But again,
Okay.
I'll get into more of that later.
Carry on.
Because the Genesis port of that was pretty good.
Yes.
The SNES one was not.
Nope.
Sorry, James, I
Yeah.
kind of talked over you there.
But, and one of the things they really did, they got the color palette of the movie pretty nice looking in there too. And that sometimes that alone, you're winning a lot of the battle just with the color choices.
Good point.
True.
That is true, yeah. So, let's see. Now, Ray, you'd said something about Ocean? Ray?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I just didn't want to interrupt anybody else. I was just gonna say I will give Ocean credit for the first game, not 2, not 3, on the NES. I think that given the time that it came out, the first RoboCop game that they put out was based on Data East's arcade game, and that shined through enough to where I think probably it would be okay at the time. Obviously now, hindsight's 2020, maybe not so much, but I think I would have been okay with that NES port if I was a kid.
I think you
didn't
might
realize
be...
Ocean was involved in that game, actually.
Don't believe they were. I know Data East published
I think it was Ocean.
I'm pretty sure it was a Japanese shadow dev that actually did the work for them. Like a Micronix or something.
SRS
I'm
Cicada.
mistaken then.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. I was mistaken then.
Well, in that case,
Okay.
fuck Ocean then.
Well, you did try to give them some credit at least.
That's more than I'll do
You
for us.
tried. They
It's
A lot
They
nicer than I would have been, but that's fair.
they didn't try, but you tried. And that's what matters.
Exactly.
as Christopher Walken says, fuck them. It's so.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm fine with saying fuck Ocean. They fucked so much shit up.
Did they ever?
Hey, they are not my favorite game company.
Eurojank. But anyway, yeah, I do like the NES Board of 1. Sounds like the Japanese did it. That's fine with me. I think it's okay. For it's not great. It's not as good as the arcade game, but I mean, and like Like you were saying a minute ago, the presentation, in the arcade game was quite faithful. Like when you boot it up and play it, 1988, you go to the arcade and play that. That's pretty good. That really does resemble the movie, and it just kind of reinforces what the arcade kind of used to be during that time period when it was really booming. That was the creme de la creme. That was where the best graphics and sound were on everything.
That they were. That was a great time, the like of which we will never see again. Now I feel old.
Well, there's always Fightcade.
This is true. Well, I suppose I should say something about RoboCop. There used to be a little video store down the street where I live.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Mike. I'm glad you appreciate it. Anyway, there was a little video store down the street from where I used to live called Video Plus. And they remodeled after a time, and they put a little arcade in the back. One of the games they had back there was RoboCop. I would go down there a couple times a week just to play RoboCop. If that tells you anything.
Nice.
And, of course, while I was there, I'd also try out some of the other games they had, like 720 or Thunderblade or even one of their pinball games. They didn't have a lot, but their selection kept rotating. But RoboCop seemed to just stay there. They had Shinobi in there for a while and a bunch of other stuff. But, yeah, I always wanted a home port of the arcade game and never got it. But apparently there is someone working on a home port for the Genesis. No idea what's going on with that one, though. But it was looking pretty good the last time I saw it. Yeah. It's like it's interesting how many arcade games come around that time. Oh yeah, if I could dig up the info, I'll go ahead and post it. But so yeah, I guess we're
especially when you consider like how much nicer the music is on like Midnight Resistance for the Genesis than the arcade.
You're
not
kidding
RoboCop
about that.
getting that.
Uh-huh.
That's what I was thinking about too. Just the music that they're going to be able to put out through that. You can get that nice grimy sound to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Chunk.
That's going to be nice if they pull that off. Well, we said about what we can say about RoboCop. What about RoboCop 2? Dadies made that one too.
This game is fucking weird.
Well, first and foremost, it is 2-player simultaneous, and you get 2 RoboCops.
Yes.
Is the other one red?
That's the same trick they... I was going to say, that's the same trick they pulled with Superman, Taito's Superman. I don't think the other one's red. I think he's just like a more bluish looking sort of metal, if I'm not mistaken.
Almost looks like RoboCop 1 and RoboCop 2 as far as the finish of how he looks.
RoboCop, we're assigning you a partner. This is RoboCop Blue. You were saying, James?
Oh yeah, that's pretty much all I was saying. One, he looks kind of more bluish in the second one, and in a lot, especially in a lot of the merch that they make for RoboCop 1, he just looks just straight up flat gray. No, very little tint to it at all. So I think that's kind of what they did with those two.
Yeah, that is a good point. In the actual RoboCop 2 movie, his finish did look bluer and at times almost more rainbowy in the right camera angle, which that was weird. Unless I need to get my eyes checked, but yeah, RoboCop 2's carapace did not look quite the same as it did in the first film, which I don't know why that would be
his
the
carapace,
case, but that's not a word anyone expected me to use, apparently. Am I even using that right? Define carapace. The hard upper shell of a turtle, something regarded as a protective or defensive cover.
No, I'm not ragging on it. I'm just laughing.
I could rag on it, though.
Very astute.
No, hey, do feel free to rag on it. I sometimes occasionally use words that sound interesting for the sake of sounding interesting, which is a very pretentious move, but my brain just works like that sometimes. So
dare you?
Well, hey, variety is the Spice Girl of life. So just
yes, indeed.
Yes.
So then apparently, judging by what you're saying, Mike, is that RoboCop and RoboCop 2 is part turtle, part machine, all cop.
Yeah, I don't see why not. if I wanted to make a really shitty transition, then I guess you could say this game takes a page or two from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game that Konami made. No, that was terrible. Never mind.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Oh, who put the lights out?
Oh, lordy. And Star says, much like a turtle, Robocop also can't get up and flipped on his back, so there you have it.
Now, see, that's the segue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe you were onto something, Mike.
Yeah, credit to Snarb for kind of pulling my ass out of the fire. Anyway, RoboCop 2 is a fucking weird movie, and hence, like, fittingly enough, this game is also a pretty weird game. But honestly, I do like it quite a bit myself. It is one of only 3 games I can think of that I will title a blast 'em up, where it very much has the sort of perspective, movement, and cadence of a belt-scrolling beat 'em up, the Final Fight or Vendetta make or what have you. Except that while you can punch and throw enemies if you're up close, you are mostly just shooting on the belt-scrolling plane that you're on. You can actually shoot left or right as per a control scheme similar to Renegade or Double Dragon 2, which I think is pretty neat. So you can shoot while walking away, but yeah, the only other 2 games I can think of that also outbreak this are both by Konami, their take on Aliens for the arcade, and their arcade game based on Bucky O'Hare. If anyone can think of any other blast 'em ups, please do write in. But
I'm sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, this game is except for the fact that RoboCop 2 / Cyborg Kane is the final boss, spoilers, this game has a very, very loose interpretation of what happened in that movie. In fact, I don't think any of the events really accord to what happened in it. I'm not even sure you're gathering Nuke. You don't fight in an arcade, but you do go to what appears to be a weapons shop and fight the first boss there, which of course is a punk with a chainsaw who, he's not wearing a mask, but now he got upgraded to being a boss. You also take on a guy in a mech suit, super powerful zombie. I'm not making this up. He falls into a vat and he's like if Emil got superpowers instead of just getting splattered by Clarence's van. Yeah, no, this game is pretty fucking bonkers, and I think it is pretty fun for what it is, but this one doesn't seem to be especially popular with a lot of people for some reason, and I don't know what anyone else thinks here, so I'll let you guys go.
Well, there is a part that has a bunch of arcade games in it.
Oh yeah, there was actually an arcade bit after all. When was that? It's been a while since I played this.
That was in the movie too.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's like it's kind of funny that they both kind of blend together in that way, because that scene in the movie, there was just a bunch of Data East arcade cabinets through there, like Midnight Resistance.
Yeah, Midnight Resistance is actually the one
in there
I most prominently remember. I think it would have been pretty meta if he smashed Officer Duffy into a Data East machine. And you're right, the beginning of Stage 2 actually does take you through a Data East arcade. It appears the only machine they have there is Sly Spy, actually, but punks will actually attempt to huck giant Sly Spy machines at you, which, like, wow, these guys are on some sort of steroids if they can fucking do that. What the hell?
Exactly.
And it's kind of funny that there's a Sly Spy machine in there, considering who's in Sly Spy, and kind of a stage cameo, but that's a whole separate thing.
Oh yeah, that, like, in that area, you, like, face this guy in, like, some sort of brown uniform that I think was also in that game.
Are we talking about Sly Spy in the stream tonight?
We are.
It is on our list.
We should save it for that, because
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, there's another connection in the game that we'll bring it up then.
But yeah, if you want to talk more about RoboCop 2, or because I get the feeling this one's kind of overlooked in Data East's overall repertoire.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
I'm just gonna say, never forget the great Data East arcade massacre.
So many poor innocent machines.
I know.
Yeah.
A moment of silence for them all, please. All right, it's long enough.
But yeah, I did like the game a lot myself. I'm not.
Awesome.
It's one of those games where I'm not sure why other people don't like it. But then again, I'm one of those people who, and I have to make sure I say this before this because people get kind of bent out of shape. I don't like RoboCop 2 the movie as much as RoboCop 1, but I still like RoboCop 2 the movie a lot, especially because it's a movie that's telling you that RoboCop 2 is a bad idea.
Yes, that's why I love it too.
I mean, he's even like the Kane robot is even called RoboCop 2 in the movie. It comes from the fact that the corporation is basically doing a cash grab, trying to recreate the magic of the first RoboCop, but it doesn't work because the same people aren't involved.
Yeah,
Which mirrors how the second RoboCop 2 movie was made almost. I mean, you've got a lot of the same stars, but you didn't have the same writer. At least I don't think you had. No, you didn't have the same writer as Frank Miller.
yes, Frank Miller fucking wrote this movie,
and he's in the movie.
Kinda.
Yeah, he did cameo in it. Yeah, he was one of Kane's drug chemists, as I recall.
But it's just funny because whenever there's a conversation with people saying there's no satire in it, and I'm saying the whole point of RoboCop 2 is saying that RoboCop 2 was a bad idea.
Yeah.
If that's not satire, I don't know. I mean, what were they even looking for? Were they looking for satire that was exactly like the first movie? What would be the point?
Yeah.
They raised the bar for media literacy on the second one, clearly.
I mean, you think about it, they had all those. They basically had a bunch of screen tests trying to get another RoboCop, and none of them worked out.
That's the one scene that everyone I know who doesn't love the movie does love.
I mean, they can't front on that. That was just too crazy.
It's excellent.
The one that pulls his helmet
plus no notes.
And then just the whole thing of trying to make the original character, trying to have him say all these things for kids.
That was also
and just messing them up.
Yep.
Like he would do for a Saturday morning cartoon, which later on he got a weekday cartoon or I can't remember if that was weekday or weekly.
It was part of those Sunbow ones, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was part of the Marvel Action Universe. And the funny story is, they took the budget that they were supposed to use for a RoboCop episode and spent it on making that pilot Pride of the X-Men that the Konami game is based on.
Wow, that's crazy.
And they randomly aired it one morning, and I never saw an advertisement for it. They say, well, it didn't get good ratings, and I remember saying, well, did anybody know about it ahead of time? Because I saw it by accident.
Exactly. It's like, might have gotten good ratings if you'd actually gone ahead and advertised it, but what do we know? We're just your average TV viewers, apparently.
I'm ready for Australian Wolverine. I'm okay with that.
But yeah, RoboCop 2, that movie was better than a lot of people give it credit for. Hopefully it gets a decent appraisal the way Halloween 3 is getting right now.
Yes. Oh shit. It's funny because Daniel O'Harely was in both of those films. So.
Oh, that's true. He was a bit more mean in Halloween 3.
A lot more, yes. Now I do have to ask your opinion on this point. So, I appreciate the love that RoboCop 2 gets, but it's not just me. RoboCop 3 legitimately does fucking suck, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
It's a stinker.
Yeah. Okay,
it's a bad one.
Yep.
Anyway.
The only good that it has going for it is that he gets a jetpack for the RoboCop versus Terminator arguments.
God damn it.
Well, let's see. Just thinking about RoboCop 2 here. I haven't seen the movie in years, and I've never seen the arcade game. I mean, played it once or twice in Mayhem. It was one of those that I wanted to go ahead and play again before the stream, but I ran out of time.
It's definitely worth another check. It's much more different than the first arcade game, which I personally do appreciate that they weren't just making the same game again, but yeah, I know that you're a fan of Konami's Aliens, so just kind of think of this game as being somewhat akin to that, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I just gave it a couple tries before, just, once my lives were gone, and I was just like, okay, moving on to something else. I'll go back to it eventually.
You, it is what it is. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
MAME is the epitome of romlistitis, to give you credit.
yeah. There's so many other things you could get distracted by, like I don't know what, Terminator 2, the arcade game. That one's fucking mean, but I digress.
I don't think I've seen the movie since it actually came out on video for the first time.
Oh shit!
So it's been a while, but I do remember the scene where they're auditioning all the other RoboCops.
Everyone does. Yeah,
kind of hard to forget that one.
Yep. Anyway, before we turn this into a RoboCop stream, I guess we should move on.
Yep. The half RoboCop half hour of. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that.
Rob's not keeping a tight leash on this, clearly.
Yeah, it's all just kind of freeform here.
Yep.
Besides, I think everyone out there appreciates hearing our banter and back and forth and stuff.
You damn well better.
They never say anything about it.
Snarp has pointed out that RoboCop 2 is a beat 'em shmup. I like it.
Great name. Perfect.
All right, so really, Brandon?
Damn, really?
After RoboCop 3, I just have to wonder why they'd even want to make a RoboCop 4.
Well, I guess if we wanted to be technical, there is a fourth RoboCop movie, but frankly, I don't want to acknowledge its fucking existence. So.
Well, it does exist, but we can choose not to watch it.
Yeah, I'm still not sure if I am ever going to, even just for completism's sake.
Yeah. I know someone who saw it, they said it wasn't bad, but they'd never seen the original, so we immediately made her sit down and watch the original.
And what did they think of the original?
They thought it was good.
Okay, cool.
So, all right, well, we mentioned Sly Spy, so let's talk about that.
Don't you mean Sly Spy?
I don't know, it's been a while since I played that one, too.
Oh, well, it starts off with a sexy woman voice saying the king's name at the title screen, so... That was my bad attempt at a sexy woman voice, thank you.
Yes, Michael be here all night.
Does the other version of that game, Secret Agent, does that have the 1-900 lady saying the title of the game, or
1-900?
I have no idea, honestly.
I don't know how else to describe that.
At least
voice.
it's not Miss Cleo.
Jesus,
it's like
Christ.
3 o'clock in the morning on the USA Network when you're watching Up All Night.
That makes me think of a Calvin and Hobbes strip.
Oh boy!
Where Calvin asks his mom, he's like, "So why would anyone want to call ladies who are just sitting around in their underwear and pay $4 a minute to talk to them?" And where did you see that? It was on during my morning cartoons.
Just to get back to RoboCop, Brandon said that their idea for RoboCop 4 would have had Ann Lewis come back as a cyborg herself because she was unceremoniously killed in Part 3, which I think is fucking bullshit.
That is.
That's what that kept me from watching the third one, because as soon as I heard that, I was like, nope.
Yeah, no, there's not real much meaning to it, except I guess Nancy Allen wanted out partway, which honestly I can't blame her, but still.
Well, in follow-up to what you were saying, Rob, builds character, Calvin. Don't worry about
exactly. He lamented to Hobbes, maybe there's just some questions you shouldn't ask. So, anyway. But yeah, Sly Spy. Or however it's said.
Yeah, no, that's pretty close.
It is the game I always confuse with. I think it's Konami Special Project Y.
Yes.
SPY.
it.
And I did the same thing.
They do actually graze on quite a bit of each other's territories. Kind of like dueling games in a way, like dueling movies, like when those two films about Truman Capote were released next to each other, but...
What was that one in the 90s, they had a couple of these disaster movies that were like almost identical, released within like a week of each other.
it was like there were I think there were two different volcano movies at the same time.
That's
or
what it
something like
was.
that.
Dante's Peak, and just straight up ass Volcano, I think was the other one.
Mm-hmm. I can see where you
So,
confuse
yeah.
those two.
So yeah, this is kind of like that. They released both near the end of the 80s, and although I think this one is arguably James Bondier than the other one, and yeah, let's not sugarcoat it. It was basically a James Bond video game with the serial numbers filed off. Now, I don't know if they actually wanted to get the license like they did for RoboCop, but I'm imagined that would be a little bit harder for a somewhat more obscure video game company to procure. So yeah, they just went ahead and made, I don't know, Jim Bont, I don't know, or
Jim Bunt.
whatever he was called in The Simpsons. Scorpio, you're totally mad. But yeah, it's been a bit of a while since I played this one, but I remember, pretty fun, pretty straightforward. You're mostly just shooting a lot of guys in uniforms and berets, and I think there's some underwater shenanigans. I think you're fighting on a motorcycle as well. It does feel like it more or less runs on the same engine as RoboCop. Unfortunately, your case. Oh, what's up?
We just blanked out, blanked back in.
Poop. Oh well.
I didn't on my end. That might be on your end, Rob.
It was on my end.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
good.
I was just babbling about the cadence of the game, like being similar to RoboCop, except that you can only shoot left or right, but you do move faster, so there is that. My memories are kind of rusty on this one, so if anyone else wanted to talk about it, go ahead.
Well, I have a question, actually.
Sure.
Isn't this a game where you have a running battle through the Lincoln Memorial?
I believe that the Lincoln Memorial does. Actually, that's the first stage. You land from free fall before you trigger a parachute, and then you do shoot a bunch of soldiers in front of the Lincoln Memorial. This did actually happen.
I could remember that it was that or Special Project Y.
No, it was this one.
Okay, cool. All right, but James, you'd mentioned something earlier about some kind of a cameo in RoboCop? Or RoboCop
yeah, I'm gonna try and find a screenshot of it because it's not good for RoboCop. I don't know if anybody else even remembers this from Sly Spy, but crap. There's in one of the, I don't know if it's the last stage or the next to last stage, but really close to the end of the game, there is a headless body in the foreground, and it looks a lot like RoboCop's.
Dang.
Is that after the scuba level?
I don't remember exactly where it is. I just remember being in shock
and
seeing it. Okay.
Yep, there it is. That's RoboCop.
Okay, hang on. Where is this now?
Yeah, you got a link to that one, Ray?
Yeah, I'll link it over in the chat. Okay. Tried to timestamp it. I apologize if I interrupted. I didn't mean to.
Oh no, that's okay, because I was trying to find it, and I was trying to find it online because my screenshot folders are kind of ridiculous.
I'll get it here, and I'll screen cap it too for Rob.
Nice.
But yeah, this game, it really did feel more like they were trying to make a real 007 game because the references seem way more direct.
Oh yeah, RoboCop is fucking dead. This is yes, this is true. Yes.
Let me grab a screen cap for the beloved viewers here. 1 second.
Dang.
Yeah, that is RoboCop.
RoboCop's dead.
He sure is. Wow.
So wait a minute. When did this game come out as opposed to the RoboCop game?
1989, so it did come after.
Now that might be some developer commentary there.
Yeah, it's possible.
You mean like someone didn't like working on the RoboCop game, so they poured their frustration? Yeah, that's how Wario was created, if I'm not mistaken.
Speaking of Wario, how about Carno? No, I'm just kidding. We're still on Spy.
Yeah, that is definitely RoboCop.
Okay. Yeah, there's the screenshot for Rob there, so we can share.
Oh, Snarbu, we're talking about Sly Spy currently. Although I am finding I'm coming up a little short on things to say about this one. You get to fight a pair of tigers in it at some point, many years before Yakuza 2, so there's that.
There's a bootleg Grace Jones in it.
Oh, really? Bootleg Grace Jones?
That's something you don't see.
I mean, even it's like as cool as Grace Jones is. Even the bootleg is pretty good. You're doing pretty good if you got that.
I love Grace Jones.
Yeah, people generally say that the villains of A View to a Kill were the best part, and yet that's still rated as one of the weakest Bond films. That's curious.
Yeah. It's like they were more cool than the movie they were in.
Yeah, pretty much.
Of course that Duran Duran theme song is pretty nice too.
That's a top fiver of all the Bond themes ever done, in my opinion. Definitely.
It's like that was hype.
Grace Jones was in this crazy ass European car commercial. And I need to find that and share it with everyone. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life.
I already know what you're talking about.
I haven't seen this, but I would love to. Anyway,
words can't do it justice, so you'll just have to see it.
Brad. Anyway, I guess we're straying away from the point a little bit. We don't have too much to say about Sly Spy, do we?
No, we don't.
Oh, well, there is one more thing, because we haven't really brought this up yet. The idea of Karnov showing up in a bunch of games. Because this is one of the games where he shows up as, someone who looks like Karnov as a boss.
Yes.
And he's basically the odd job ripoff with the hat weapon.
Yes, he is throwing.
I love it.
It is a fusion between Karnov and Odd Job. I've seen this. This is pretty great.
Yeah.
The KCU. Oh my god. Fatty K represent.
Yeah, no, that's pretty accurate.
And if anyone wants to check out that picture of RoboCop, I just put it in the chat for you.
RoboCop is fucking dead.
No, I just labeled as Robo-Dead.
Yep.
I mean, there's no doubt whatsoever what that is supposed to be.
Yep. Anyway, I guess Sly Spy isn't my favorite Data East game, but I believe there are worse James Bond games out there, and this one's pretty decent, even if it's not actually a Bond game. You do get to fight sharks with a spear gun, so there is that at least.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that.
Nope.
Well, yeah, Sly Spy. I should play that again one day.
Yeah, same here.
And probably Special Project Y too.
Yeah, that was pretty cool too.
Well, let's see. Well, we're kind of floating around licensed and, kind of spiritual licensed stuff. So why don't we move right to the real Ghostbusters?
This one is very strange.
Yes. Now,
it seemed strange even when it was new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know the Japanese version is something else entirely.
Yeah, the Ghostbusters name was just tacked onto this. It's not actually. It has nothing to do with the Ghostbusters, as far as I know. So.
Not initially, no, from my understanding.
Yeah.
Well, but it did work in its final form.
I hope you like the Ghostbusters theme. You're going to hear it a lot.
Well, to be fair, that's how the original console and computer game was. The one that had that shitty NES port.
It's unavoidable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Play the Genesis one. Play the HAL Laboratory 2. Don't play any of the other ones, for the love of God.
Actually, I do kind of like the Sega Master System version of the Ghostbusters game I mentioned. It was actually handled by Compile, and it's probably the best version of that formula. So.
Yeah. And
cool, I learned a thing.
I grew up with the 2600 port, so.
Ew.
Hey, it was actually pretty complex for the console. And
it was better than the NES one, at least, I take it?
Oh, by far.
Cool.
But Yeah, the real
Rob
Ghostbusters.
went back into the cave on that one.
Oh, I proudly have a copy. I will play it too. And as long as I can stop, the Marshmallow Man from stomping all over the city, I'm good.
I think the arcade version was probably the first licensed game where I kind of felt like there was something really, really off about it.
Yeah, this is true. I remember finding it once in an arcade in Daytona sometime in the early 90s, and it's like, the real Ghostbusters? When did this happen? A few years ago, according to this. All right. And I'm playing, it's like, this is off.
I actually have vague memories of also seeing at least one real-life cabinet of this at some point, although I should certainly make it known that while I should probably get on it someday, I am not very familiar with the animated adaptation that shares the name of this game, the real part in question.
I watch all the time.
Yeah, that's one I really need to catch up on someday. I've heard it is actually real good.
It's worth the effort.
Oh yeah, especially the early few seasons. They got into that whole Slimer and the real Ghostbusters, and got more kiddie then.
Oh, that's a shame whenever a show resorts to that. But hey, I will at least check out like the first 2 or 3 seasons someday. It sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, from what I understand, this game bears little, if any, semblance to that adaptation or any Ghostbusters adaptation. Maybe some of the monsters kind of look like how they did in the real thingy or whatever, but
not really.
I don't know. Well, okay. I guess this one's an overhead shoot 'em up, where you have a floppy laser beam imitating the proton pack.
That's one way of putting it.
It's very astute. I agree 100%.
Thank you.
Noodle laser.
Yeah, this one's nominally fun enough for what it is, but so misuse of the license or no, I would say this one's honestly never been one of my favorites, so
Is what it is, right?
It's okay. It's just, I think the final boss is just like 2 of a previous boss, which I think is really lame, so I know that's a weird thing to downgrade the entire game on, but if it doesn't have a fantastic climax, I guess it does take a bit of the piss out for me, so I don't know. And also I remember the environments being somewhat redundant, like you were on a lot of rooftops or a lot of deserts or whatever, and I do recall that the stages do kind of repeat their tile sets as you go farther in, so fun in short bursts, but I remember it got repetitive pretty quickly. At least that's my experience. So,
yeah, I can sum that up. I played through it once, and that's
workmanlike.
Yeah, exactly. It's there.
It's a beer money game. That's probably the purpose why Data East made it.
Pretty much. So, anyone else have anything to say about this before we move on?
I'm sorry, it's just too unremarkable.
Exactly. Hey, Bruno.
We mostly love Data East, but, the Primus-style adage of they can't all be zingers, so... I mean, I guess we wanted to touch upon this one because we love Ghostbusters, but...
Yeah.
There is one more thing I can strike against it for, if I may.
Oh, go ahead.
If I'm not mistaken, this one allows up to 3 players... Which means that Winston gets shafted yet a fucking again. God damn it! Give Winston his due already.
Well, at least
it also means Winston didn't have to deal with this game, so he kind of won out there.
Okay, well,
I consider that too.
Fair point. Yes.
At least Hal cared. He's a weird color, but I mean, I guess you can take what you can get. This kind of thing.
You could still. In fact, that's usually my team in New Ghostbusters 2 is Winston and Lewis.
Oh yeah.
Winston's in the lead. Lewis is following up with the trap.
And somebody added Winston into the Genesis game. They hacked him in.
Yeah, it was Billy Time Games, I think.
Yeah, I played that hack for a bit. It was really freaking cool. And they actually also added Lewis as a secret character, and all his stats suck, which is kind of great in my opinion.
They've actually added a ton of stuff to that game, too, including making Sigma from Mega Man X a playable character.
Wait, are you serious?
Yes.
I'm gonna have to look this up now.
Dial it back. We don't need Sigma. Just Winston and Lewis are good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you really want to go far, put Genie in there too. But
Dades, what do you want?
So it looks like Bruno has joined us.
Hey Bruno, what up?
Hello.
Hey, Bruno.
So let's continue, shall we? What would be a good one? I know. One I played through today, which I had never actually played through before. I played through Vapor Trail earlier.
Oh.
That, you know what you're saying about the Ghostbusters theme playing all the time in the real Ghostbusters?
Yes.
Vapor Trail plays the same stage music for every stage.
You do not care for the musical repertoire of the first Kuga game?
I don't recall it too much, actually, to tell you the truth. Anyway, my point is, at least it's good music to listen to.
That is true, yes.
I'll give them that. If they were going to repeat, a piece of music throughout the entire game, then at least it's the same thing. That's good and not bad. You get what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I can only say I haven't played the arcade version much. I am more familiar with the Genesis game, and even then my memories are not rusty. But the music in that was awesome.
Yeah, it's one thing that carried over nicely.
Yeah. Again, even if that was mostly the same track, maybe they had more tracks in it, I don't quite remember, but wow, the sound quality was so good. Although I remember the music more than I do the actual game, so my fault.
Well, as you pick one of 3 planes, and you just shoot everything that moves.
Yeah.
That is pretty much it.
It is, I recall, pretty straightforward for shoot 'em up fare. Like, I guess it is very much like Raiden, or maybe, I don't know, Fire Shark? I'm not sure if that's the best comparison.
There is one thing you can get, though. It's like there's a special power-up that you get, and it'll actually, latch onto your plane and give you this super weapon that you can actually even pick up again after you die.
Ooh.
I carried you through like 3 stages.
Cool.
And you die a lot in that game, especially when you get to like stage 5. They just throw everything at you.
Yeah, some shoot 'em ups do have the tendency to do, but yeah, I see you get this weapon and you shoot like compile-ass crescent waves out of it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's on the first plane. On the Warthog, you shoot like just fire. It's like twin flamethrowers. And
I guess that follows the same principle of 19XX or other games I played. One balanced, one power, one speed, if I had to assume.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the third plane, I don't remember what the special power is for that one. I used it once, but that was it. I stuck with the Warthog through most of the game.
It's a good name for a plane. It sounds thick and powerful.
Yeah, well, it's definitely powerful. I was able to waste a lot of stuff there.
Nice.
Yeah. But overall, it's definitely a fun shooter. It's just, you're going to die a lot.
Yeah.
There's no shields. So, and the one thing that does get annoying is every time, you have 2 hits, and when you lose your, second hit, the pilot, he's like, I can't control it, and then he blows up. You'll hear that a lot too.
Kind of like you'll hear "What a Day" a lot in the arcade version of Crude Buster, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I really cracked right up for that one.
I had a PCB of it.
Yep. So, do either of you have anything to say about Vapor Trail? Because I'm a little bit light on this one, too.
Me?
Yeah.
I didn't have time to play it. All I could really say is I played it a long time ago and thought it was a perfectly competent shmup.
That's fair.
But
Yes. It
good
is
music,
a shoot 'em up
Genesis.
and begin with cromulence.
Oh my goodness. I got called out right there. I know what
It's-
you're doing.
I had to say that at least fucking once. I'm sorry.
It's
I usually
perfectly,
have-
Mike. It's perfectly crescent fresh.
Yes.
I bigly appreciate your comment.
Yes. Muchly indubitably, I'm sure.
Oakley dokley. How about you, James? What do you think of Vapor Trail?
That's one I didn't get to play.
Ah,
I think Vapor Trail hit around the time that I just kind of phased out of shooters for a while. I don't know. I think I got kind of burned out. So it's not a
Yeah.
genre that I was really into at the time.
That is understandable. It is a genre where I think some tropes, especially in the vertical scrolling type shooters, really kind of started to have them all blend together. So that I can see where you're coming from there.
that game.
So I apologize for that, but that's just where I was at the point.
Yeah, we all can't play everything.
That is true.
But, it did come out during the great shooter avalanche of the early 90s. So, it's like home consoles, arcade. Yeah.
Well, unless you had a SNES.
Well, even that had share of
Heyo.
shooters. But compared to, say, the Genesis and the PC Engine, yeah. But at least when it did shooters, for the most part, it did them good, actually. Gradius 3.
Mm-hmm.
R-Type
Did
3.
you say PC Engine? I just heard real Super Nintendo. Sorry.
Exactly.
I wouldn't stoke those fires at the moment, considering.
Now,
well,
we can do that on the Super NES stream.
Okay, that's fair.
We already did a PC Engine
I just got
stream way
the
back
I just got
when.
the can of gasoline here. I'm just pouring it on everything.
I gotcha. No, I understand that. I'm not trying to speak up as a fanboy, just as the let's try not to start too much shit with the potential audience stance.
Well, just
That's
because
called fun.
just because the Super NES is the 8th greatest console ever made.
Blood on the floor.
I kid. It's my personal 8th favorite console ever made, but
Oh my goodness. Sassy pants.
I can't deny it did have some great games. But we're not talking about the Super NES. We're talking about Date East. So,
Yeah.
let's get back to that.
I suggest that since we've touched upon him a couple times now, that we talk about the de facto mascot of the company at this point.
Before we get to that, I do want to go ahead and lead into one other game.
Okay.
All right. I noticed something. The final boss of Vapor Trail bore a very strong resemblance to the hero ship from an earlier Date East game. And that game would have been Super Real Darwin, which is part of the Darwin series.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, Darwin 4078 and Super Real Darwin, which was ported to the Genesis, is Darwin 4081. And they're very unique shooters. It's like you basically pick up DNA as you go along, and your ship will, I used to say mutate all the time, but it basically evolves into different forms. It just get more powerful and more powerful. And if you get hit by something, then you're going to shrink into this little tiny ship. And it can be very, very difficult. I haven't played too much of Darwin 4078, but I played a lot of Super Real Darwin.
Those are really interesting games.
Yeah.
I'd like to see something else use that mechanic. I can't think of any other shmup that does that.
Nope, that's the only one I can think of.
I can talk about one that does actually do that by the name of Chimera Beast, which Snarb hinted upon. But that one's by Jalico, so I'm not sure how far I should get down that rabbit hole.
Well, we'll save that for the Jalico stream, whenever that happens.
It's a real awesome game, though. Sadly, it was never officially released, but yeah, I think that one's pretty rad. Unfortunately, I am completely get depleted for anything to say with Darwin. I don't think I've ever actually played any of the games, and I'm very sorry for that.
Yeah. Well, I will say that it's a very abstract game. You fly over strange-looking geometric formations and stuff, and the enemies are all really weird. It's like they just kind of sat down and said, "Okay, just come up with some stuff. Whatever it is, we'll put it in there. No big deal."
On that note, we really should talk about the Data East development process here, Rob.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
So I read it might be on Schmuplations now, but back on Gaijin Punch's website years and years and years ago.
Oh man, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
I know. Yeah, he ran that proxy service. But he had something similar to what Schmuplations does now, interviews with Data East developers about how it was back then.
Mm-hmm.
So, bubble economy Japan, Japanese drinking culture, and lax management combined to form a development cycle that started with after-work Japanese drinking culture, getting hammered, writing ideas down on cocktail napkins, bringing it into the boss hung over in the morning and asking if they could make the game, and they would get to make the game. And that's not something I don't think we're ever going to see again. That kind of...
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
If it worked for them, then fuck,
Is there anything more Data East than that, though?
It does make a lot of sense when you put it that way, yes.
There were two roundtables that I read on Schmuplations that one of them did mention something like that, so that could be one of the interviews. I think one was from 2002 and one was from 2004. I'm not sure on that, but yeah, but they talked about that. They also talked about the idea that I guess a lot of the higher ups were originally engineers at first, so that's why they had so many just high tech things on their arcade boards that could just do amazing things, but a lot of times they didn't know how to program for them.
Yeah, that does.
And that, you get weird, like you get crazy effects and stuff like oh crap, I can't remember what was the game that we were talking about in Discord where in the ending the shark's chasing you?
Thunder Zone.
Thunder Zone. That's how you get like that crazy stuff like in Thunder Zone, and you have something like Captain America. They basically got scanned to animate backgrounds with a ridiculous amount of colors in it. So when I read that in the interview, that kind of explained, okay, that's how they were able to pull stuff like that off.
It was a completely different development industry in terms of the type of people that were programming stuff. Not to get too off track, but I was reading some interviews about the development of the original Rockman, and the guy that coded that game actually did the 6502 assembler, came from an engineering background where he was doing code for machines that could actually hurt people in like heavy industry. So his code was extremely bloated, just out of habit, and that's why that game is so glitchy.
Oh.
Huh. That I didn't know.
That's a cool explanation, though. That's
well, looks like Nathan showed up.
Yep. Oh man, Nathan TZ's here.
Yeah.
One of my friends from various message boards and stuff.
Yep.
Good to see you in here.
Welcome both Nathan and Gnawdog. Glad you guys can make it. All right, so we basically said all we can say about Darwin anyway. Fun game, very weird. Interesting power-up mechanic. The Night Slashers reveal? I mean the remake that's coming out?
And I think he's talking about the new character that they said is going to be in the new revival game.
Oh, okay. I'm still kind of torn on that one, but we'll talk about that when we get to Night Slashers. But Mike wanted to bring up the company's mascot, essentially.
Yeah, we gotta talk about Karnov eventually because having a large mustache man sounds like a weird idea for a mascot, doesn't it? What other company would ever think of doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Fatty K is my boy.
Wait, what? Who's your boy? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I say Fatty K is my boy.
Oh, Fatty K. That's a good way of putting it.
Remember, it's the Dance Dance Revolution Karnov parody.
I vaguely remember that from the fucking Halcyon days of Newgrounds.
Dance Dance Karnov, wasn't it?
Yep.
Haven't thought about that in ages either.
I think it's only like 2 levels, but I would have played a much fuller game if they'd actually, like, have us pay money for it. So, anyway, so yeah, Karnov is a weird title where the title ostensibly Russian strongman goes strutting around, shirtless, red pants, and those silver clogs or whatever, breathing fire on a really bizarre gallery of weird monsters and freaks trying to kill him. And that is basically the premise of the game, as I can best sum it up. It is I guess you could call it an action platformer, and the arcade version is very difficult. Enemies just, as per that, Data East jank style of programming, enemies just tend to pile on into the screen, and they often overwhelm you. You can shoot your fire shots more or less as fast as you can hit the button, and you can get power-ups that have you fire like 2 or 3 fireballs at the same time, but of course you go back to just 1 fireball if you die and have to resurrect on the spot. And I was never very good at Karnov, and I wouldn't say it's my favorite Data East game, but I do respect just how much of a bizarre fever dream it feels like. I mean, you can see in the screenshots that he hits fighting dinosaurs there, so that's something.
Dinosaurs
Most
and green
arrogant
lions.
mudman I've ever seen.
Yeah, they are something. Throwing boulders at you and crap. But yes, Karnov. So, who else has something to say about Karnov?
So, well, I can't talk about the home version. We'll do that for another stream. But yeah, this game unfortunately has that the kitchen sink aspect of the enemy placement and just kind of dumping them onto the screen, bullets everywhere when it gets really frantic.
You are not kidding about that.
You're left to figure it out on your own. You can get past it, but they're not holding your hand. That's the kind of game design that's at play here. I like the item system. It's kind of like if somebody started out with a Gradius bar and then just said, well, why don't we just do whatever we want? Kind of win with that instead. I seem to recall just you kick the crap out of a random T-Rex at some point.
Yep.
In that game. The ending amused me, though, because the ending of the arcade game seriously just looks like the ending of a Wario game.
That's right. He's just kind of like throwing a bunch of riches around like he's Scrooge McDuck.
Seriously.
Well, I guess you found the treasure then. I don't think I've ever seen the ending of the arcade game. I'll have to look that up.
That's the whole ending. We just told you the whole ending.
Wow, just him throwing treasure around.
At least it is an ending,
this
right, Rob?
is true, yes. It's is.
Better than Psycho Nick Saucer ending, yeah.
It's better than the NES ports ending.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. I'm not sure if we wanted to graze upon that or save that for the console talk we'll have at some point. So,
congratulations. The end.
Congratulations, you win.
Yeah. So, how about you, James? Your thoughts on Karnov?
Just basically what everybody else said. It's the arcade version is brutal, but it's just there's just something weird and weird and interesting about how bugged out it is. Just enemies that you don't think would be in the same game are there, and for reasons that no one could ever figure out or even try to figure out. But I think that's part of the charm, and that's kind of what makes a Data East game a Data East game.
Yeah, it's like, let's just dump whatever in here, and if it sticks, great.
Well, the Famicom port tried to explain the madness.
I do remember this.
Yes,
Yes.
it
I
did.
remember reading a little bit about that.
It's not a very good explanation. Essentially, everybody is wicked and a jerk, and God wants Karnov to beat them up.
That
It's an
basically sums it up,
explanation.
yeah. That was... Remember the first time I played the Famicom one and saw that, opening cutscene come up, I'm like, whoa, wait, this is Karnov, right?
Yes, God, sir, right away, sir.
Thinking of because he wasn't weird enough already. They
Right.
they decided to make Karnov the emissary of God.
Yep.
And
But
he just seems to only get more and more weird from there.
pretty much, and look at all the different games he's popped up in. It's like you play a
can
Data
even,
East game after Karnov came out, you're bound to run into him at some point.
Yeah,
He's
the hostage holder in RoboCop, which that was the sneakiest one, and most people don't notice it.
No, you got a point. It does bear a fair semblance. I believe he was wearing an orange tank top. If he had worn red, I guess that would have been more blatant. But
And if you're able to see the sprite without the hostage in front of it, his arms are basically in the bad dude stance pose.
oh, nice.
So they kind of snuck that one in there.
Nathan, Karnov isn't really a man so much as an idea, a concept that has the ability to spring into existence on its own, is the explanation that I provide.
So he's a Star Trek energy being, is what you're saying.
Sure.
He's a Q, sure. But yeah, look what else. I mean, you already brought up in Sly Spy appears as like the odd job type of character.
Mm-hmm.
And in Bad Dudes, he's first boss.
And he shows up a lot in Trio of the Punch.
He sure as hell does, doesn't he?
I think he's actually the star of that game.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, that's not a bad way of putting it, honestly.
He carries that game. Let's just put it that way.
That's definitely a good way to put it. And there's a lot of little Karnovs that carry a lot of big Karnovs.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. He literally carries himself in that game.
Yep, that's the very first boss. Giant Karnov being held up by 4 tiny Karnovs that shoots fire from its foot.
Yep.
Yeah, him and Colonel Sanders.
Yep.
Colonel Sanders.
I would love to talk about Trio of the Punch, but I guess we should wait until we get to its proper coverage. I'm not sure what else we have to say about Karnov, the game in question. I do agree the kitchen sink approach does make it kind of hard to approach from a more casual angle, but I do remember actually beating the NES version at least once, and getting, of course, disappointed by the ending, but I've been warned about it in advance, so I didn't really mind it.
Well, the NES version is manageable. The arcade game is just, you get blitzed. I remember the first time I ever encountered the arcade game was at a pizza place back in the mid-'90s. A place called Hungry Howie's. Anyone in the Southeast would probably know that name. Maybe. Or maybe just Florida. I don't know. But they actually had a lot of good arcade games in there. I found at separate times. They had Karnov, they had Bottom of the Ninth, they had Blasteroids, they had Metal Slug. First place I ever played Metal Slug.
Very cool.
Howie Bread, yes. See, I knew some people would know Howie's. But they had Karnov there. I tried that out, and I was dead in... I mean, I don't think I lasted more than a minute in that.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, this is not the home version I'm used to playing, is it? Well...
I just want to know what Data East's obsession with Russia is and the Russian people.
That's a good question. And
Well,
Nathan, I didn't know that about Howie's.
oh, cool.
And yes, CC's Pizza had arcades too, but not as much of a diverse selection as Hungry Howie's did, at least for a while. But yeah, the Russian people. Speaking of which, Chelnov.
I'm going to be honest. I actually like Chelnov more than Karnov.
Chelnov's
Thanks.
unique. It's just, I'm not sure exactly how to describe it.
It's a very interesting shoot 'em up platform.
It's
Run
a
him?
literal run and gun.
What do we even call it? I don't know. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you never stop running, and in fact, I think that is actually part of the premise. Like, you were like a human speed bus or whatever, several years before that movie existed. Or something like that. I don't know. Well, maybe it wasn't exactly like that, but something about how you had to keep running because something was going to blow up or whatever. I forget exactly what the premise is there.
Well, it might have something to do with something nuclear.
Yeah. Hence why it was called Atomic Runner Chelnov was the full title.
Mm-hmm. I played the Genesis port first before I ever saw the arcade game. But
Yeah.
that was really well done, actually, on the Genesis.
I actually do prefer the Genesis version of the arcade version, I'll be honest.
It looks better than the arcade.
Yeah, and it has a lot more music, and it's using Data East's really fucking cool custom soundtrack wizardry for that game too, so...
Mm-hmm. And if I remember correctly, it also... maybe I'm not remembering correctly. But it's... Now, thought's gone. Never mind. It'll come back or it won't. So, anyway. Chelnov. James?
Yeah, didn't the Genesis version have a cutscene in the beginning that explained what was going on, or at least part of what was going on?
It did, yes. It more or less laid out the full story, I think. Although, again, I forget what that story in question involved.
I just remember it being different from when I played that version first, and then I saw the arcade version in MAME, years later, and it was kind of weird seeing how different they were.
Yeah.
It definitely. I mean, they play similarly. I guess the Genesis version is a little bit more polished, but as far as the graphics go, it had a lot more colors in it, and it gave the stages more of their unique theme. Like, I think the first level felt like for most of the stages that are in the Genesis version, it's more like a sort of like Mesopotamian or Babylonian sort of overall ambient to its design, or something like that.
They may have wanted to distract from the whole Russian part of it.
That is another good point. Yeah,
because in one of the roundtables that I read, that I reread a few days ago, there was an interview with Data East, and something about that game came up. I have to look at the links and see which.
Hello, you okay?
Oh. Did you lose your mic, buddy?
Let's see.
Uh-oh. Shit.
Yep. Sorry, I got quiet. Turns out I know Nathan from real life. I used to live in the same town as him.
That's really cool.
James, you still there? Yeah, it looks like his mic might have cut.
Yeah, he's been having a few technical difficulties before we started the stream, unfortunately, and looks like they are back to plague us, so it is what it is, I guess.
So, has anybody played the canceled but dumped Saturn port of Chelnov?
What? That exists?
Yeah, I'm
It
having the
does.
same reaction right now.
The fuck? I have never heard of this before. I need to see this.
It's a prototype. It's a straight
Oh.
arcade port. No bells and whistles, but it's quite good.
Not so excited now, are you, Mike?
Well, if it just looks like the arcade version, less like the Genesis one, I guess that does kind of take the piss out of it. But nonetheless, that is interesting. I've learned of its existence now.
Yeah, I'm gonna want to take a look at this myself at some point.
Definitely. Oh,
Yeah, he's just gone. But
crud.
I wonder whose keyboard is louder, Rob's or mine.
good question. I can hear yours pretty well.
Here, let me try it, sir. How about that?
Hang on, if I may contribute to the keyboard race here.
I got white switches in my 8-bit do Famicom one. I think I'm gonna win.
We're doing the keyboard equivalent of the business card scene from American Psycho right now.
Yes, very nice.
Let's hear Paul Allen's keyboard. That is the
Paul
cleverest thing I've said this fucking week.
Christ, dude. Paul Allen would have a fucking IBM Model M with buckling springs. You know it.
Yeah. God damn. Oh.
Well, I hope everything's okay with James. He hasn't responded yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we should continue or temporarily suspend proceedings.
I mean, his internet probably just got cut out. I mean, no big deal.
It did happen to me on at least one roundtable at some point, yeah.
Yeah, as long as we're still on the call, he'll be able to jump back in once he gets back online.
Yeah.
Rob,
Yeah.
I would like to broach the topic of Hippodrome. This is one of your picks. I'd like to hear what you have to say about it.
Okay. Well, Hippodrome. That was one of my first fighting games, I guess you could say. And granted, it was a very early one-on-one versus fighter. And one that was very unique even now because, you played a human dude and you're fighting about all these mythological monsters. I encountered it at a bowling alley. And they had it there for some time. So every time I go in there, I would go ahead and, pop a couple quarters in. Never got very far. It was fun, and the whole actually having a jump button instead of just pushing up, that was unusual. But then again, like I said, the controls and stuff weren't standardized yet for fighting games. But I think I would make it past the first couple of opponents, and usually the lizard dude would kill me.
Well, I thought it was... I got time to play it a bit.
Oh.
Hey, welcome back. And we're discussing Hippodrome. But I got a chance to play that one a bit, and it's a little deeper than I thought. The gameplay is horrendous. I'm not going to mince words. But it's got
he's gone again.
Yeah, it has a shop system. And you can actually upgrade your weapons to do a bit more damage. It's very basic, but it kind of edged out Mutant Fighter by pure janky, insane charm to me, just by a bit.
Well, that's a good way to do it. So James, your internet cut out?
Yep.
Well, it's not a live stream unless something happens.
Unfortunately, yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about Chelnov, man?
Not that I can think of. If I did, I forgot being irritated that the internet just cut out like that.
I would certainly feel the same way. Yes.
Yeah, I had some Dolomite language for that.
Have you listened to Mike on these before? He works blue all the time.
You really fucking do.
Wow.
Yes.
I try to stay chill about that because the fact that I know who Dolomite is, I can I think that's a clue that I can use some Dolomite language myself. So
there you go.
Everybody should know who Dolomite is.
Exactly.
Oh, serious.
I do.
And if they don't, that they're a rat soup eating. Well,
Well,
need to see more films of that make, but Black Dynamite is it was a real fun send-up of them, so.
Oh yeah, definitely. That I mean, the one guy in that, he's really actually sounds even close to Dolomite's voice.
Nice.
but yeah, we since we were basically done with Chelnov, we just moved on to Hippodrome.
Oh, okay.
So, out of curiosity, anything you want to say about Hippodrome?
I remember checking it out a little bit, and it's one of those ones I want to play a bit more because it felt a little janky at first to me, but it felt like one of those ones where the more I work with it, the more I can get used to it. But
Yeah.
it's still a great looking game though, and it even sounds good.
Yeah. And it's nice there's actually a shop there where you can upgrade. So I remember in the arcade, when I first played it, I was just like, okay, I want to buy this. I don't have enough money. Whatever, I'm just going to play the game. And then later on, it's like, oh, I'll actually have enough money maybe to upgrade my sword to an axe. Hey, that's doing more damage. That kind of thing. What can I say? I was young. So, Ray?
Yeah, why don't I go ahead and get into one of my favorites here?
Yeah.
So I think.
Wait a minute, I didn't get to speak about Hippodrome yet.
Oh, well, sorry. Go ahead.
No,
sorry.
Mike, you're excluded from speaking about Hippodrome.
Huzzah!
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to say, total ripoff. This game does not allow you to fight hippos. That's totally false advertising. Very
Because they didn't give the Hippocratic Oath.
low-hanging joke.
Yes.
But no, seriously, I do find the world of pre-1991 fighting games to be rather fascinating. Of course, 1991 being when Street Fighter 2 completely fucking changed the game for better or worse.
You mean basically
And
when the fighting game equivalent of the A-bomb dropped?
yeah, basically, that's a fair way of putting
This
it.
topic is a can of worms I do not have time to get into.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, no, seriously. For what it is, I do think it is a fun game, albeit a fairly rough one. As I recall, if you blow it at any of the enemies, you can continue as many times as you need to, but you basically have to start over, and there's some pretty rough fights in there. As mentioned, there's a wizard who mostly just spams lots of blue projectiles at you, which is very annoying. There's one where you actually have to fight twin assassins bearing down on you with Klingon-ass blades or whatever, which is pretty annoying. And I recall the final boss was this giant who has a much larger health bar than you do, which is bullshit. But I do remember somehow beating it at some point, and it's a pretty neat idea, I think, but also, fairly jankish as well, and it does sort of feel like the odds are really stacked against you. You pathetic human trying to take on all these mythical beasts or whatever. They obviously have natural advantages, so what the hell are you doing?
I hate the lizard man. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, no, lizard men tend to be jerks in many games that they're in, so.
Yeah.
Hippodrome was one of the first of kind of a style of game that kind of you slowly got releases that were in the same vein over the years, but not consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Monster Maulers by Konami.
Yes.
Didandarn in Japan, I think.
Yeah. There's one. There's one. Yeah. There's one by Band Presto called Meta Mockcaster or something like that. It was also similar.
Metamokester, I think Oni the Ninja Master in Japan. Fantastic game.
It's
brutally difficult AI on a few bosses, but beautiful game. And of course, Red Earth or Warzard being a big example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are basically more advanced takes on Hippodrome. I think all those games are pretty damn cool, honestly.
Me too.
Especially Monster Maulers. I love that one.
Yeah,
and it's very sort of Tatsunoko-ish sort of overall ambience.
Sentai for absolutely 100%.
Yep. And also, interesting fact that Nathan notes here, the final boss, the giant, there's a heavy semblance to Uyghur from Fist of the North Star. Yes. And yeah, I remember actually, of course, playing the, Ryuga Gotoku Studios' take on that. Uyghur, or however you pronounce it, is the fourth boss, and then basically giant horny Santa man with muscles. That's a terrible way of putting it, but yeah.
Well, horny as in the hat too.
Yeah. I sure hope so.
So basically,
Thankfully, no video game adaptation that I'm aware of has his laughter in it from the anime.
Oh, what was his laughter like there?
Horrendous.
Really obnoxious. Gotcha.
I'm talking sub, not dub.
Ah, gotcha.
So what you're basically saying is that character, Fist of the North Star, the version that appears in Hippodrome, is like if you ordered that character off a Wish.
Also, the Hercules archetype in what was it? Brain fart, Mutant Fighter. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, well, it should be a good time for you to talk about Mutant Fighter, actually.
Mutant Fighter. I didn't end up liking gameplay.
Hang on a second.
Moment to moment is more.
We're about... Sorry for the glitch. We timed out for a second. Stupid internet. But okay.
It's being kind of buddy tonight. Oh well.
It's just, I think it's like this all over.
Okay, no worries.
All right, but anyway, go on with yours about Mutant Fighter, Ray.
It's fairly similar to Hippodrome. It's got a kind of pseudo ancient Greece kind of gigantic tournament kind of between monsters and humans and all that kind of vibe to it. The gameplay is quite different though. It's actually a wrestling game, kind of a basic wrestling game. You can jump, you can do kind of running like jump kicks. You can do the I'm not super knowledgeable on all the wrestling moves, but you can kind of throw them to the ropes or the turnbuckle or whatever you call it.
With the Irish whip.
The Irish whip. Okay, yeah, that sounds right. I haven't watched wrestling since like 2002. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I haven't really watched it since 1988.
Nice. But yeah, it's a wrestling game, and like anything you do is to get into the grapple on that game. And the grappling in that game is both basic and kind of janky. It doesn't play great. It's not awful. The game has a lot of charm to it because it's definitely a Data East game. It's got just tons of goofy, weird English voice samples from Gaijin tourists that they dragged into the office to record a few lines. It's got that vibe. It's got tons of charm. I think I noted in our pre-game kind of prep chat that there's a tiny bit of pedigree to this too, because the Hydra comes in and its movement sounds are sampled exactly from Medusa's movement sounds from Clash of the Titan.
Yeah, I remember
it's the
saying
exact
that.
same sound effect. It was super cool to hear that. Yeah, like the Hydra's in it, and he has a big old tail and like 8 heads, and you actually wrestle him like in a wrestling game. It's bizarre.
Now, speaking of which,
I didn't clear.
Your avatar there on the screen. That's which character is that again?
That's the Amazon.
That's right, Amazon. For some reason I was thinking Empress. It's like, no, Amazon. Okay.
Yeah, she's actually not that good of a character. I was kind of disappointed because I wanted to play as her, but the werewolf is actually probably the strongest character out of the selectable ones.
Nice.
Just because he's kind of fast, his striking's fast, his grappling seems to come out better. But yeah, the stages are kind of all over the place. They kind of all have like a Colosseum or kind of ancient Greece or ancient, world theme to them. I mean, then you go and fight the Hydra and randomly there's like ring ropes. Like modern ring ropes, like WWE.
Anachronism.
But yeah, it's fun to just see. It's one of those games where like, if I was still doing, getting JAMA motherboards or whatever, I wouldn't get it. I would fire it up in MAME and I'd have probably a lot of fun just messing around with it for maybe 30 minutes. But it's got a lot of charm and character to it. But I have to give Hippodrome a bit of an edge unfortunately, because it's just got a bit more going on for it, despite the janky gameplay.
Hippodrome comes out on top.
Barely, but yes.
Yeah. Well. So, how about you, James? Any thoughts on Mutant Fighter?
Well, that's one I didn't get to play.
Oh, I played it long
Sorry.
enough to get a picture of the Amazon there. So I don't have much to say about it either. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, I actually have beaten this one a couple times in the past, and at some point, I think I just picked the Golem because I hated fucking fighting him as an AI opponent because he just took so fucking long to beat. As true to a Golem, it felt like he had more endurance than the average character, and that was obnoxious enough that I didn't want to fight him. So, although I guess it was moot because ultimately this game is kind of quarter munchy, and this is kind of a complaint I have about wrestling video games at large, but unless anyone can tell me if there is a science behind the grappling system in any of these games, I usually just mash the fuck out of the buttons and either it works or it doesn't. And usually as I get into the deeper opponents later in the games, it usually doesn't, so I just have to feed credits into the fucking thing. I don't know.
It's no WrestleFest, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, no, WWF WrestleFest, that's a much more fun game to be sure. It might also be kind of mashy, but it doesn't feel like you're fighting up against the elements as much in that one.
Absolutely.
And something I do recall is that the final boss is the Archmage, and instead of fight you like any of the other combatants, he just keeps running away and spamming all sorts of bullshit spells on you. Like, he is basically playing a completely different game from you, and he's actually fairly poor at grappling. If you can get in on him, then you will do some damage, but the problem is just getting close to him at all and not having him spam like giant crescent projectiles or lightning down from above or giant earth spikes or whatever. Funny thing is though, anytime he does any spell, he just screams magic, and you just hear him say magic, magic, magic as all sorts of random fucking bullshit is flying across the screen, and honestly it's kind of funny, if not infuriating.
That sounds funny.
So,
Fucking clothies.
yeah, but it's an interesting final boss. But I'm since his endurance is actually a little bit less than some other fights, I couldn't tell you if it's necessarily the most frustrating fight in the game for me. Because what gets me the most is that for quite a few of the opponents, especially the later ones, it feels like it takes a long time to try and wear their health down. By hook or crook, and sometimes that the tedium just kind of gets to me in games like these. Mutant Fighter is pretty fun for what it is, but it's no Slam Masters, if you ask me. So
Not even close. Yeah, and I kind of agree with you there on just kind of wearing that health down. They always do more damage than you, even on the easiest setting. And I almost always had to pump another credit in just to get through a fight.
Maybe this is one of those games that's more fun as a two-player experience. At least I assume that you can have head-to-head versus on this one.
Maybe so.
I actually haven't tested that, but yeah, it's like King of the Monsters tier. Fun gimmick, but kind of janky as an actual wrestling game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, now, James, I know you picked two games to talk about. Which one do you want to go first on?
Which one would fit the set? Well, we're talking about pre-Street Fighter 2 fighting games. You want to talk about Karate Champ?
I say go for it. Yeah.
Okay. Because first of all, I have to say this, start off with this. Yes, Karate Champ is a fighting game, and people were trying to say it isn't just because you weren't around when it was around. You can't say that. That's not how reality works.
Who the shit's trying to say that? Who are these punk ass revisionist kids trying to rewrite things as they see fit?
It's the OG, isn't it?
Basically.
That and I don't know how you pronounce Yar Kung Fu, but
yes,
that's the one. I've seen people try to say that was more influential, but I don't really see it because I didn't see anywhere near as many ripoffs as there were for Karate Champ.
Yeah, I mean,
Good.
ER Kung Fu didn't have an actual head-to-head mode. Karate Champ initially didn't, but it got a re-release, an enhanced version, Karate Champ Versus, that
Yeah.
did allow two humans to take on each other. And if not the very first head-to-head fighting game, I would be willing to at least give that one the classification of like the one to just form the very first strand that would evolve into Street Fighter DNA down the line.
Exactly. I mean, just the whole player versus player, which that's the main version I always saw. I didn't know that there was even a one player version until once again you get on the internet and you get MAME and you see the stuff you never heard about before. And that's where I just saw the original version of that. But Karate, if you haven't played it, Karate Champ is basically your classic one-on-one tournament fight. And here's another thing that's kind of weird to have to describe now. Before UFC and all that, with the mixed martial arts, the reason why the term mixed martial arts exists is because it was rare for people of different fighting disciplines to fight each other in a tournament setting like that. That's the reason why Kumite was exciting when they were talking about it in Bloodsport, because it was the idea that you had all these people from different fighting disciplines going at it in the same ring. And it was point based. And that's the other thing. Before you had UFC on TV where people were just getting messed up the way they are, it was a point system. You didn't really beat somebody until they vomited on themselves. They weren't really doing that in the Olympics. Unless I missed, unless there's one that didn't get televised, I didn't hear about it. I mean, I feel like that would have made the news, but
yeah,
exactly. But I mean, that's how real life, most real life martial arts tournaments happened, and it's based on a point system, and that's the thing. That's another thing that Karate Champ needs to get credit for. Basically, it's not really about getting a bunch of hits until you knock someone out. It's you're trying to get that one hit in. When you get that hit, the judge votes on your side because you've got a guy in a white gi or outfit, and you got the guy in a red gi in his outfit. Whoever gets that hit in, the judge pulls out a flag and says, you either get a full point or a half point. You have to get 2 points total to win the match, which is kind of like it almost reminds you of the 2 rounds you're fighting. But there's also 2 rounds in that too. So different hits get you a different point depending on how they're done. And the whole risk reward factor, it's the harder a move is to land on someone, you have a better chance of getting a full point on one hit. So you can get a bunch of little, like the little lunge punches into the gut, you can get half a point. You can win a whole match on that. But if you can pull off one of those jumping side kicks and just lay the guy out like a sack of potatoes, and the animation on him when you see him drop is crazy. If you can pull that off, then you get a full point. So you've got a lot of different options to try and pull things off. You can even somersault over the character, and then there are attacks that are made to do in reverse. Like there's a few different back kicks you can do. So if you can somersault over somebody quickly, get in the right range and do a really fast back kick, that looks cool. But the main reason I wanted to talk about Karate Champ, besides, like I said, people dissing it just because it was before their time, the same atmosphere that you saw around Street Fighter in the 90s, it was the same atmosphere around this game. Just for the people, you'd have somebody that might be playing by themselves, and then they put their quarters up. Somebody else comes up and they put their quarters up wanting to play. And there were people I didn't know that even played video games at that point that I saw hanging around the machine. It's like, oh, I know him from school. I can't believe he's getting ready to play this.
It's so cool.
I could back that up, actually, because
go ahead and tell them, because more people need to hear about that.
Now, Granted, the one place I encountered Karate Champ when I was a kid was in a laundromat. But I can tell you that it was the most popular machine there, because they had a few others. And it was almost always crowded. It was just sheer luck I got it to myself once in a great while. Or I'd play with my brother, that kind of thing. But, yeah, because usually parents, at least where I live, they'd bring their kids to the laundromat with them and whatnot. And Karate Champ. Everyone's right there. No one wants to play Pac-Man? Karate Champ. I distinctly remember the judge at one point. It's like, stop, judge, that point. But yeah, that was insanely popular. So, whoever's coming up with
used two joysticks, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
And that's the other. Back when you were talking a few games ago, when you were talking about how video games didn't just have a standard setup for every video game, and that's what makes it so special. The fact that you had all these people playing this game with two joysticks, but you have people now that say, "Oh, nobody could ever play that because there were two joysticks." Because it's weird to me on MAME.
Who are these clowns with their
revisionist history? It was the time before JAMA. There really was.
Yeah, it wasn't all about replacement kits with everything at that point.
It's just.
I mean, bitch.
I don't know, but they should.
Smash TV or even Robotron 2084.
Paperboy.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know where these people come from, but they seem to have a lot of free time on their hands. They use that free time to try and rewrite history, and it's pretty irritating.
That's where we got to stand
up. They came out of a womb just 10 years ago, if even that. That's my guess. Fucking
harumph.
Fortnite chugging goddamn little. I don't know.
Blood on the floor.
Yep.
Yeah, like Nathan just said, you can use two analogs. He said, like, they can't just use the two analog sticks on every controller now. That's what I ended up doing when I went back to play it earlier today. I just went ahead and MAME and just mapped out the one. It'll start off mapping it out to your buttons. You just go into MAME and just remap it real quick to your the second stick, and it was like playing it in the arcade again. And it feels natural because the left one is for motion only, and then the right one is with the moves. And it's something about the way that they set up the moves that just feels kind of natural, especially with the jumping sidekick, where you press up on the left controller for movement, which makes you jump, and you hit forward on the other joystick to do the kick. And something about that just feels natural.
Yeah, no, I do remember it actually controlling relatively intuitively, despite how intimidating the setup seemed at first. My memory's a little rusty, but I think I actually did, when I was much younger, encountered a live Karate Champ machine in the wild. I want to say that was up at Penn State College's really cool Playland arcade that existed up to the early 2000s, which is sadly long gone, but that one had a very nice cornucopia of games, old and new, in it. I think that's where I played this one. And yeah, no, I certainly had fun trying it out for what it was. Also, I just want to clarify that the version we got internationally was the player versus player version that was just called Karate Champ, but apparently, like the very first version of the game was only released in Japan, and it only allowed you to play against the CPU, so we got the better deal worldwide, as it turns out.
Yep.
It's pretty interesting.
Yep.
But I know that Karate Champ was influential enough to spawn at least two blatant ripoffs on the C64 and probably other British computers. One known as International Karate, and the other called Way of the Exploding Fist.
Oh, no.
And I don't know much about those, except they pretty much just ripped off the formula exactly, but they were still pretty popular for their time, because I'm not sure if Karate Champ got any home ports outside of the NES version. If I'm not mistaken, the NES version is not well received. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, it's definitely lesser. And also there was at least a port for the Commodore 64. Time my Christmas gift, it was a 2-pack. It was Karate Champ and Kung Fu Master for the Commodore 64. So
Hey,
nice. And yeah, you're right. It did actually get a straight up 64 port. So why were the ripoffs made? I wonder.
because
well,
they
you
could.
know, it was easy money.
Every
Yeah.
popular
But
game gets a ripoff.
I heard International Karate was pretty good though. Yeah, and that's why I said there's no way that the game wasn't popular, or else.
Okay, and we're coming back.
Of nobody likes beat 'em ups.
Maybe. There we go.
In the press, you kind of had that going on too. It was, like I said, it was a really weird time then, with people just talking about games, and you could tell that. I mean, I was doing the same thing. Once we got access to MAME, we were going through it, playing a lot of these games that we never had a chance to see and experience them for the first time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, those of us who were around then, we weren't going around trying to say, "Oh, well, nobody played this because it's weird for me to play."
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really go around saying that when you weren't there.
If I may take a page from Rob's parlance here, if I have permission.
Sure, go ahead.
This was definitely around the time when the Moes of the world were really starting to shit up the game. The Moes of the world, as Calvin and Hobbes would say, were really starting to shit up the gamosphere, and they were just playing all them, bro shooters and war crime simulators and what have you, and that was what was popular in gaming for a while, and it fucking sucked.
Mm-hmm.
So
I can't even put it on just those players either. It was a lot of the people who were writing the articles. Like I said, the same kind of people who were saying that, well, they couldn't say the word beat 'em up genre without having to say it was dead. It was that crowd. But the shooter bros didn't help either.
Yeah. You mean like the type of person who still thinks Ocarina of Time is the greatest video game ever made?
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm striking the fucking matches here.
Yeah, there's going to be blood on the walls at this rate if we're talking about N64 kids.
Fuck, even the ceiling.
Now, my favorite part of this conversation actually was the beginning of it, when you were talking about, like, MMA didn't exist in the 1980s. Like, style versus style,
Good.
that was a mythical thing.
Yeah.
This was before even the early 90s, when those really obscure Japanese promotions were starting to do what kind of would become like pancration, and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I kind of enjoyed that. There had been nothing even attempted like that, except that really bizarre Inoki Ali fight in Japan.
I remember hearing about that. What the shit?
Yeah, so I kind of enjoyed the reality check on that, where it's just like no, it was different back then. You went to karate school and you studied karate, or you went to Aikido or you studied Aikido. Nobody was going in there like those early UFCs and trying to mix it up and find out what actually worked.
Yeah, and that's also another thing I want to bring. This is kind of a side note because it's not Data East related, but the game isn't called Street Fighter because you're fighting in the street. It's because, like you said, it was usually the same style versus the same style, and you weren't allowed to, throw fire at people at the Olympics. And I feel weird having to say that now, because that's how popular the UFC style. Not that you throw fire there either, but you couldn't just beat people into submission, or you couldn't have someone bring a weapon. And that was, in fact, in wrestling, you called that Street Fighter rules, where even just the idea of going into a tournament and not wearing your uniform, that was weird.
Exactly.
So you have to start at Karate Champ. You have to start at Karate Champ just to understand the stuff that comes later on, because Karate Champ is the basis of what a fighting tournament would be. Street Fighter would be considered a very weird tournament.
Yeah.
Even if it didn't have green people in it.
And, on a related yet unrelated note, I'm still wondering why NEC decided to rename Street Fighter to Fighting Street. I didn't see any Fighting Streets anywhere in that game.
He didn't even fight streets in that game. He just... In fact, only 2 of the stages were actually streets, Birdies and Gens. You just fought on those. You didn't actually fight them.
Just go fight Geki on the dirt road and don't complain, all right? Don't worry about it.
Anyway. Just as one more offhand comment, I don't want to make this a huge thing. I just want to confirm that I'm not delusional here. Modern UFC sucks and the talent pool is just completely not there today. Is that true? Is that not just me?
I've been following it since Griffin Bonner, pretty long time. It's a lack of talent. It's a lack of marketable talent. You get to a point where if you go back and you look at the really old UFCs, the pre-Fertitta Brothers UFCs and Dana White UFCs, that was just style versus style. There was no mixed going on there at all. They were dudes going in there with one boxing glove on. It was knucking futz. All right,
that's so cool. Yeah.
It's just bizarre. That was the freakish of the freak fights before Pride FC was even had notoriety for that.
I just think
didn't he just pass away? I can't remember the fighter's name, but the guy with the one glove, didn't he just pass away recently?
Oh shit.
Recently, I think so.
Oh, that sucks. Well,
but
I just wanted to say
he wasn't joking. That was a real guy. Seriously.
Let's see. Art Jimerson? Does that name sound familiar?
Oh, that sounds familiar to me.
Yeah, Art One Glove Jimerson dies at age 61. Oh, that sucks.
But what I was getting to is that if you look at that and the step by step changes in the game over the years, what you're seeing is the complexity of the sport getting more and more complex. So for the same reason that a couple guys that were just slugging each other in the face in 1915 for 50 rounds probably wouldn't last a single round versus a modernly trained boxer, in the sweet science. That's happening to MMA, and the side effect that has is everyone fights a lot more careful because there's a lot more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know. I just keep trying to get into MMA every now and again, and everything I see just bores the fuck out of me, and I don't know if that's a problem on my end, like, the viewer's version of a skill issue or whatever, but I compared this to, like, Pride FC matches back in the early 2000s. Those were really fucking exciting. Those were awesome. What the fuck happened?
Well, Pride FC is a whole nother animal. That's a completely different rule set.
Yeah, I realize we're getting way off the topic. I don't know if Rob wants
I'll
me
be
to
quiet
order
on this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's talk about this later. I'm interested. But
yes, Mike, you are getting off topic.
Yes. Can we get on the topic of one of the games I wanted to talk about? Unless James, you have anything else you want to say about?
I'm done ranting about Karate Champ.
Anything you want to add about Karate Champ, Ray?
Oh, no, I kind of blathered on about, ancillary topics, so I don't want to waste any more time.
All right, so that said, I'm just going to say this. This is an open letter to all these kids trying to do revisionist history here. Just stop, okay? We were there, we know. You weren't, you don't. So just shut the fuck up. Okay,
we're
Mike.
Big, you're small, we're right, you're wrong.
Just shut up.
We're smart, you're dumb.
There's a difference between opinion and fact. Don't confuse one for the other, you fucking fucks.
Let me tell you something.
Get off our lawn.
We have something
Maybe
you don't have.
Maybe it is the children who are wrong.
Yes, Principal Skinner.
We have something that they don't. Life experience.
Yeah.
That they have no interest in listening to, I can assure you.
Yeah.
Funny, I was expecting Mike to say he wrote his thesis on life experience.
Wait, what? I'm sorry,
I wrote my thesis on life experience.
Okay. I forget where that's from.
The front.
Oh, yeah, right. Sorry, it's been a while since I've seen that one. Anyway,
tell us all about your exciting life. I worked for 40 years as night watchman at a cranberry silo. Wow. But yes, Mike, go ahead and talk about what game you want to talk about.
Well, this is one that apparently you and Ray have not played prior tonight recently. Maybe James has, I'm not sure. But I wanted to discuss the wonderful sugar rush known as Nitro Ball.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Which I described in a rather crude way. I'll try to tone it down a little bit. Ironic for me, I know, but I basically described it as the games Commando and Smash TV having relations on top of a pinball table, and this was the result that came out of it.
And also sports ball.
Yes, a little bit of sports ball. Although, really, that maybe I guess it's sort of the Smash TV ambience of it. But the first stage is modeled after a football field, and it gets to wackier settings afterward. Like, first stage is called Strange Football, and like the boss is like some sort of linebacker goalie hybrid, so it is literally sports balling. Second stage is War, you're fighting tanks and whatnot. Third stage is Horror. You're taking on zombies and Draculas and whatnot. Fourth stage is Geiger-ass aliens and all sorts of weird biological things. Oh, hey, Flatwoods monsters pop up at some point. That's cute. And the final stage is a space station where Terminators are trying to kill you. It goes less for cohesion and much more just for all-out madcap thematic craziness, and it's themed as like a sort of Running Man-esque future sport, but unlike these sort of cyberpunk other sort of future sport-like games, there's not some, as far as I can tell, there's not anything malicious behind it. You are just fighting for big money, big prizes. I love it. Actually, I guess
I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah, yep. But nothing malicious like the Running Man. I don't think you're a prisoner. You're either Gary or Harry, and I think there's a player 3. I forget what his name is. Perry, Jerry, I don't fucking know. You just. It plays a lot like Commando or Mercs or what have you. You're firing your machine gun or whatever other weapons you have onto the field and just going to get anyone who runs towards you. But there is an extra sort of sweetness to it where most of the enemies tumble backwards like they're rolling, like your concussive force rolls them into a ball, and there are holes and bumpers and other pinball-like apparatuses that you can fire the enemies into for bonus points, and you are in fact encouraged to do so. I'm not personally very good at aiming enemies like that because I have been terminally fucking terrible at pinball, but I do find that extra garnish just a lovely bonus to this game's overall crazy game show atmosphere, and it is just a sugary delight to play, and for the most part one that, is fairly tough, but as I recall, usually not too credit-feedy, except for the 4th level. Somehow I thought the 4th level was even harder than the final level, weirdly enough, but there's this one part where you're getting run over by what I can just call alien train cars, and that part fucking sucks, but the rest of the game is really cool and just kind of keeps a crazy flow of, pinball shootery up, and if my babbling about the game hasn't pitched the idea to you, South American Commando shooting meets pinball elements and crazy thematic tables, then I don't know how else to sell to you. I did a really shitty job elevator pitching it, but you should really play this game if it sounds at least the slightest bit interesting. So
we should mention the music too.
Oh yes,
music slaps.
Yes.
I mean, in the 90s, all of Data East's games had really awesome soundtracks as far as I remember, and again, the music's really energetic. It really does make you feel like you're Well, like I said, I just really like the game show atmosphere that this one sells, and it's all very lively and
Total
even danceable,
Carnage.
I believe. Yep. Oh, this game is so much better than Total Carnage. I'm not fond of that one. Yeah, right. There's also a power-up you can get that temporarily transforms you into a pinball, so you can run down the things yourself and run over enemies in an invincible, like, turrican wheel-like state, which is really fucking cool. So, yeah, no, it's very nuts. It's a knockout, if I do say so. Go play it if you haven't.
There you go.
I have nothing big to add. I just want to totally back up all of that and say, totally play this game. It's awesome.
Yes, you weren't so familiar with the game until I championed it, and now I'm glad that I recommended it.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, James?
Oh, I'm with Ray as far as I didn't hear about it until I got into the Discord, and I saw the three of you talking about it, so I fired it up for a little bit earlier today, and yes, that is some fun, insane stuff. Just it feels, it seems like it does have a bit more polish than a lot of the others. So like the idea of the kitchen sink of melding different genres together, but this one just feels a lot more polished.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. It's just a real quality-ass game all around. I would, in fact, probably put it up alongside the greats we agree on that we'll be, I guess, ending the stream with. But, yeah,
Actually,
no, I could...
I wanted to bring that up.
Yes.
Given the fact that we still have a pretty hefty amount of games to go, and my internet is acting up, I propose splitting this stream into two.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, how about you, Ray?
Oh, yes.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so we'll finish up with Nitro Ball here and just close out with some other stuff, and we'll end right around midnight. And we'll come back either next week, week after that, whenever everyone's available again to do part 2, where we'll talk about the rest of these.
It's just too much fun talking about Data East.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, there were some wild folks, and we appreciate what they did. So once we start talking about it, it's kind of hard to stop.
Mm-hmm.
The Data West stream would be a lot shorter. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow, that's a pull. That's a name
Data
I didn't
West.
think I'd hear.
Well, you don't want to talk about Raise Amber? All right.
Actually, Rise Amber 3 is a very good game. At least I liked it a lot. Never played the first two. I know that 2 is notoriously fucking evil, but
they've done a lot more. I'll send you a documentary on them.
I would love to hear it, actually. Thank you.
All right. So, but yeah, there's so much stuff that Data East put out that we can't possibly cover even, a good fraction of it in one stream and not have the stream run like 6 hours.
So, Rob, why don't we put it to a vote about what the last few games you want to talk about are?
Well, we got about 12 minutes to cover maybe one.
I vote for Trio the Punch.
Trio the Punch, Trio the Punch, do
Yep.
it. Fucking yes, please.
Because how can you even follow Trio the Punch?
Yeah,
It
it's
is-
a perfect end cap.
Trio the Punch it is.
It is, in a way, the Data Eastiest fucking game we can possibly talk about.
Trio the Punch, never forget me, is the gold standard, the platinum standard of Kusoge.
Yes.
It is dekoge, which is a real term that is used.
Oh my god, really?
To its maximum quality, quote unquote, level. You don't get any more Kusoge than Trio the Punch, never forget me.
This is true. And speaking of which, if you look on the screen shortly... Oof.
Look at that beautiful Tootsie.
And there's Mini Karnov carrying Giant Karnov.
Yep. And that's the very first boss you fight, even.
Sharon, yes, Trade West was a game company. They published a lot of games over here. I think they're gone now, though.
I also remember them as publishing both Double Dragon and Battletoads, which led to the game Battletoads and Double Dragon: The Ultimate Team being a thing. That was a curious deal, to say the least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's see what other insanity is waiting in here.
looking back on Trio the Punch a bit, there is a lot of foot stuff in there, isn't it?
Oh, Jesus.
There's big feats coming down, you know.
Yep.
Karnov's got his
Yeah.
Tootsie out there shooting like carbuncle cannons at you, you know.
Yeah.
I
Foot
never
fetish.
noticed that. I never noticed that, and I kind of wish I hadn't heard that.
Lucky.
Yeah,
Cha,
me
cha, cha.
too.
I'll try to unhear that later on tonight.
That's
Yeah,
okay. I'm just blocking it out of my mind.
Those type
I
of
didn't make the
people.
game. I'm just calling how I see it.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I know those people existed before Jury was created in Street Fighter, but I don't want to mull on it for longer. than I
Before
have to.
Quentin Tarantino was
Yeah,
born
yeah,
too.
yeah. I was about to say that. I was about to say there were Quentin Tarantino jokes before Jury was even.
Oh, yeah.
thought.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say for the record, I knew about that. I've just pushed it to somewhere in the back of my mind, which is where it's gonna stay. You know,
There's one part where you fight a giant hand. Does that balance it out?
not really.
Well,
Not
it's
really.
It's a giant fist trying to squish you. It's apparently made of stone. But,
The jokes are writing themselves. Good lord.
yeah. I'll shut up now. Jesus.
Well, that's a strange thing that I got a picture of there. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, that looks more like something out of the real Ghostbusters than anything that appeared in the game, The Real Ghostbusters.
It
Right.
does. It's kind of horrifying.
And of course, we have this giant cat.
Nyan.
Lucky cat.
Uh huh.
Yeah, the Koban, or I believe that's what it's called. I don't know. Stock thing in Japan that I forget what it stands for. Good fortune, I guess. I know he connected Lucky Cat power-ups in the Goemon games.
So we can talk about the pink sheep or what?
A curse of sheeps.
A curse of sheep, you say?
Laser firing sheeps walking on their back legs.
Hey, there he is. There he is. Win-win. I curse you. And then you play as the sheep in the next level, and being able to fire those bouncy small sheep is actually surprisingly powerful. I actually kind of wish I could be the sheep for more than just one level. But yeah.
If you play as the Rastan guy, it's a better game than Nastar Warrior.
That is true, yes.
Which that's a low bar, but
And admittedly, I have a soft spot for NASCAR Warrior because of nostalgia.
I'm sorry.
But, you know, what you said is also perfectly fair.
Yeah. Let me see. Well, anyway, as the name suggests, you can pick 3 characters. Santos the fighter, Rose Sub the barbarian, that's a weird fucking name, and Kamakura-kun the ninja. And they all have their ups and downs. I actually kind of prefer Kamakura because he actually has a projectile, which I find is rather helpful, but you have to jump off the ground to use it. If you're on the ground, you have a much shorter ranged knife, so mastering the simultaneous jump and toss I thought was an interesting sort of way to play the game, but I'm sure other people prefer Santos or Rose Sub for whatever reason, and I'm just weird, so I don't know.
Whichever has the funnier grunts. That's all I'm looking for.
I want to say Santos is probably most popular because he gets the most out of the weapon upgrades. I know that if you upgrade him to the max, he gets a sliding punch that just has him rocket across the goddamn ground, and it's maybe kind of hard to control, but it is very fun to observe. So, also, I guess the premise of the game is that it's kind of, sort of a side-scrolling, sort of beat-em-up, kinda, I guess. You're supposed to defeat several enemies in a stage that's either just one screen or a somewhat infinitely looping track, and you need to beat up and defeat certain enemies so that they drop hearts. And if you collect enough hearts, the boss of the stage will appear, and you extinguish the boss, and then the stage is over. Unless, of course, you die, in which case you just have to start the stage over again. But those are the basic rules, and there's like 20, 30 levels. The levels are all short, but there's a shitting lot of them. So, yeah.
It is, without a doubt, one of the absolutely most bizarre games I've ever played in my life.
And you know, I'm sorry, so go ahead.
I showed it to Betty, too, on one of our early videos.
Oh, good. You should definitely show it to everyone.
Yeah, she couldn't quite believe what she was seeing either.
That's the best kind of experience you can have.
I think I remember that. It is pretty great.
Now
Yeah.
you need to show her JJ Squawkers.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
Now you've got me tempted.
Oh dear.
Oh, hey, I
The
did
trio,
show. Don't forget,
oh,
I did show her Town with No Name.
Nice.
You did do that recently, yes.
yeah, Trio of the Punch was one of those games I ran into while just trying to play as many beat 'em ups as I could on MAME. And when I ran into that one, that was the one that I would just kind of, whenever I would talk to one of my friends that were in the beat 'em ups, I said, "Hey, you've got to check this game out." And I'd never tell them why they had to check it out. They just
Yes.
had to just be confronted with it right
I
then
love
and
that.
there.
I've done the same thing. I've done the same thing with that game.
It is like telling somebody to suddenly watch a trauma movie that they aren't ready for yet. And there's just and that's that's why we love talking about Data East games, because they're full of so many weird things. You can just shove one in somebody's direction and they start playing it. And just the idea that something that weird could happen in a game makes it better than a regular game that was even more, more polished maybe.
Since I love Trio the Punch so much, I would just like to point out it has had 2 ports. You never think it would, but it would. It did.
That's right, it did, didn't it?
It has a PS2 port on the Oritachi Gesenzoku
I
collection.
do remember that, yes.
It has a little bonus CD and DVD, I think, with some arranged music. I mean, I never thought I'd hear arranged music for that. And a little Super Play 3-inch DVD and a little manual. I had one of the releases for Haunted Castle before, but I never had this one. And most of these releases actually aren't scanned and don't have the contents of the little mini CDs and DVDs dumped. So I'll probably have to get on that at some point, at least for Trio the Punch, because I mean, what other content is there for it?
You have virtually none.
Yeah.
And the other release is on Switch. You can play it on Switch.
Arcade
Right.
Archives?
I think I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the best game of the whole night is actually available for people to play. It's a wonderful thing.
Nice.
So,
And
hey,
The quote unquote best.
yes.
I don't know if anyone else had anything further to say, but I could just touch upon a couple of other specific things with the game. If you wanted me to.
Go ahead.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
In one stage, you fight Colonel Sanders, who's just a statue that then has some sort of chicken actually fly out and actually throw chicken legs everywhere, if I remember correctly. Yes, this is what's happening. This might be a reference to the whole Curse of the Colonel thing, because Colonel Sanders is kind of an infamous figure in Japan, and there's something about a statue of him getting tossed into a river because a team lost, or I don't know. It's some sports bullshit. I couldn't really tell you the details off the top of my head, but something
He's
like
Father
that did
Christmas
happen.
too.
Oh yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. No, Christmas is a huge half of the Yakuza games take place near Christmas, but
You get KFC for Christmas in Japan. That is the tradition.
But also there's one stage where it says "We bulls fall down" repeatedly, and the entire stage stops for some reason when it completes that phrase. I have no idea. It must be based on some sort of children's rhyme or some weird shit like
Wait,
that.
you say Weebles?
Yeah.
Like Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down?
Yeah, I guess that's what that's relating to. Yes.
Yeah, it's an old toy.
That's right. Yeah, this game's English translation was found some years, I guess, after the original Japanese version, and it is even weirder in English somehow. Whenever you beat a stage, there's a wheel that you can get on, which can get that you have to play actually, which can get you more life and or upgrade your main weapon or your sub weapon, which is some type of magic that sweeps across the screen or whatever. And or you can get unlucky, where it's normally your master who's regulating the wheel says "lucky, cha cha cha," or he just says "bad choice" if you hit unlucky and lose a level in your weapons, which that can happen. But it can also change between fighters if you land on change. So there is that. You don't have to strictly play the game as just Rose Sub or Santos or Kamakura, I suppose. I guess variety is the spice of life. The music actually changes depending on who you're fighting. playing as. But the bosses are just really wacky. Like the first quarter of the game is like vaguely Greco-Roman-ish sort of setting. Second's like a modern cityscape that's plagued by zombies, and the third part is a very Japanese area with bamboo forests and those mansions or temples or what have you with the pointy roofs or whatever. And this game definitely goes places, to say the least. And
now,
for the most part, I think. Oh, what?
Nathan was wondering if this was the game that also had the bootleg Ultraman and Kamen Rider enemies.
James is confirming that might be the... Oh man, what game was that? I'm not sure. I don't recall there being a ripoff of Ultraman or Kamen Rider, but I do remember that one of the bosses is actually Chelnov, who pops in trying to smack you with a gigantic hammer, which is pretty cool.
Well, of course it would be Chelnov. I mean, if Karnov's there, they'd be sure go ahead and bring him in.
Yeah, might as well. If there are any other Data East references, other games they did, I wouldn't be surprised they snuck those in too. I will have to say that while I have a real blast with the game for the most part, admittedly the last quarter kind of sags where the game goes to a futuristic setting and you're just fighting these various colored blobs, and that's like the only enemy you're taking on for the most part, and except for the occasional mech or whatever. And this part gets kind of boring and the blobs take too much damage. It does feel like they're starting to run out of ideas here, so
that's the part of the design process where the hangover kicked in.
Yeah,
that's a really good way of putting it. And some games really just front load themselves to the extent that they don't consider as much what happens afterwards, and you get a disappointing sort of final levels almost. But it is worth playing through to the very end, where instead of a final boss, I don't know, should I spoil this for everyone?
You can spoil it all you want. This experience is an experience that cannot be spoiled. You just...
I agree with Ray.
You know what? I'm going to play a video of it. And everyone else, if you want to see it, go to like 3510. Actually, you know what? Hang on. Let me just copy the URL at the current time, post it in the chat, and I will describe what happens in the very last stage of the game. You suddenly find yourself in what looks like a very nice park in the middle of a city that does not look at all like the futuristic place you're at. You reach a fountain, you then kill what looks like a bird, and then it says, what? You kill a dog, and it says, cruelty. You kill a butterfly, it says, yeah. And the final enemy is apparently a large white dove. You kill the albatross, so to speak. And then it says, you figured it out, and the entire park below you raises to show a giant creepy pair of eyes peering at you from total darkness. And then you go on to see that the eyes are apparently some sort of gigantic blue creature or space void or whatever, who then disappears back into the ground. And then you share a weird exchange with your master. Here, this one says, Rose sub, that's great. Mr. Chin, best we ever had. Game over, you win. What the fuck just happened? And if anyone could try and put on, like, a psychological analysis on what this ending means, I'd love to hear it, because it sounds like something that's someone could probably base a senior thesis on or whatever, but
oh my goodness.
Let's see. Clearly it relates something about something.
It has everything to do with the relationship with the mother.
Mm-hmm. Or it could be that sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Yep.
Sometimes some bullshit, just some old bullshit.
Exactly.
Something persona? I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, one other thing about this I seem to remember. There's some kind of a bug that'll break the game, isn't there?
Oh, is there?
Yeah. Because I think when I was showing it to Betty, that actually happened. I had to reset a couple of times.
Yeah, I remember that happened. Yeah, didn't that? Yeah, I think that did happen to you twice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pull that memory up in my head, and I'm kind of stuttering here.
Yeah. I don't usually go back and watch our old videos unless I have a reason to, so it's been a while since I've seen that one.
Because I remember not really seeing that happen before.
I swear I remember reading about that in, whoever had written the article about it for HG 101. Was that you, Mike?
I'm going to have to check this out. Trio the Punch, HG 101, Boobity Boo. Holy shit, that was me. Well, I'll be damned. Let me see. I actually did say there are several glitches as well, such as an early one where you fall through the floor and are stuck unless you restart.
That's the one.
Well, holy fuck, I'll be damned. I actually accounted for that. Huh. Okay, well, there you have it. The game is quite jank, to say the least. That's part of why it earns its Kusoge, King of Kusoge title, but
yeah.
It's just so extra. I don't know how better to put. Yes.
It's special.
Maybe the short bus variety, maybe not. Play for yourself.
Find out. So
I don't know how to qualify or quantify it, but it is an experience worth playing. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, given that, we're going to go ahead and call it here for tonight.
You really can't top it with Trio the Punch, if you ask me. You can maybe talk about more quality games, but I don't think you can talk about a Data Eastier game.
Yeah, we'll come back in a week or two and start fresh with something else.
Yes.
Another Data East game that we didn't talk about tonight. And just
maybe we can add a few... Yeah, maybe we can add a few more on the list. We're just continuing to talk about arcade games, or I don't know if we wanted to roll this over into talking about the console titles. I don't know. There's so fucking much we can cover here.
I'm way ahead of you, actually, on that, Mike.
Oh, cool.
So
Glorious leader.
It's like, I've got wheels within wheels within wheels turning in my head. They're kind of rusty, get off some sparks, but, there with there.
But are these wheels on meal? Is the... I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that's an IRM reference.
It is, yes. It is.
Spartan X.
Spartan X. That's the one. I should watch that movie again. It's been too long.
Anyway, all that said, so yeah, we will be coming back to do part 2 of this roundtable. And beyond that, we do have some other stuff planned. There's going to be some more Dyer's Place episodes coming up. And a few other roundtables we are dying to get around to. So, like the Assault Suits one I talked about, I think, one of the streams before this.
Mm-hmm.
And so just stay tuned. There's going to be times where I usually try and stream every other week. But, things have happened recently where I'm getting over being sick right now. So that hasn't been fun. So it's also held up progress on the books. But they'll be coming in short order as well. So that said, this was definitely enjoyable. I had a lot of fun tonight. How about you guys?
Same.
Excellent. It was fun getting back on.
Yeah, it's been too long.
I have a meat popsicle.
And thank you for joining us on this one, Ray.
No problem.
Thank you so much. Yes,
we'll do more.
Yes, absolutely. So, all right. That case, everyone, we will catch you next time. And everybody have a fun.
Enjoy.
Have a good weekend.